All right, you absolute bastards. Little bit late, still doing up me collar there. I was doing the naked penis yoga, which is where you dress you're completely naked except for your penis, which you dress in a fine silk sackette. It's called a sackette actually. It's where the Silk Road got its name from, of course, because the first businesses along the Silk Road, of course, were brothels. And well, I'll let you look into that in your own time. Give it a twist. And what an absolute pleasure. They need a clean. So it's very late here. I woke up thinking it was Saturday, which was good. And I was like, yes, no work, nothing to do. And as I slowly realised it was not the weekend and I had fucking loads of marketing to do, I considered UIside, which is a new concept where I kill the image that others have of me. UIside. Something to think about. Something to get the ball rolling. This is going to be quite the stream, actually. I'm going to wait for a few more people to turn up. My guest is in the digital green room, but I don't want to bring him in just yet. Let me get the grift sorted out. I've got a load of clips sorted. I haven't I haven't sorted out I haven't shared it. I haven't shared this anywhere. I've got to get this on. I've got to get it on Getter, and I've got to get it in Telegram, and I've got to get it on my community tab. See, these are all the things. This is why I'm usually late. But what I've done this time, I thought, no, I won't be late. I'll be on time. But I'm on time, but doing the things that I usually do that cause me to be late. In many ways, you're getting an insight into the true guts of what it takes to create, to imagine a danger-filled stream. Let me just get that in there. Got that in there. I'm on Getter live now. Hashtag live. Whoa, it didn't like that. Hey, don't want to open up that. Right, there's that. Hashtag live. Hashtag salty cracker. Get some of his fans in. He does the hard work. Live. Hashtag live streaming. Hashtag live stream. Hashtag based. Hashtag red pilled. And one for luck. Hashtag UIside. Oh, it's accepted it as well. No one else has used it though, apparently, according to YouTube. You know what they're like. Well, they would never accept. Well, they probably would actually. They'd embrace UIside. Right, let me just get on Telegram and tell them I'm here. I don't know what all that is. Oh, someone else's account. Hacking. Right, Bosch, nearly with you, people. Bosch. Bosch. Now, I did tell my guest I'd bring him in about now, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna open up Entropy. I'm going to get that going so we can get those VARTs. So, because I've got a guest, I don't want to have to be doing any manual VARTs and all that malarks. While I'm sorting that out, I can't do two things at once. Meant it and it was true. And, of course, not true. I mean, I am breathing, talking, and working. And I'm tap dancing under the table as well. Yeah. Just a new skill I picked up. You know, the way to a long and healthy life is have a reason to live long and healthily. And if tap dancing isn't going to give you that, I'm lost. I'm absolutely lost. Healthy life is shush you. Right, 1 second, people. Several seconds, perchance minutes. Right, hang on. Nearly there. Get that opened up. You are free to ask questions as you always do, but I will obviously make a point of reading out Super Chat and Entropy questions because they've thrown filthy lucre at the stream. But as usual, I will also try and if there's any interesting questions in the chat, I will also get them on the screen. Feel free to interrupt at any time with all that malarkey. Right, that is all out the way. Right, how many have got in here? 54. By the time, Tim, hold tight. You all right for a minute? Give us a thumbs up if you are. Yeah, nice one, man. I'll say some hellos and we'll get up to about 80 people because I don't want people to miss the introduction because that's really quite important. That's what makes this conversation. Tim's playing his thumb pit. Well, I suppose that Vart. I've warned Tim about the Vart, by the way. So when we're in the middle of a Hegelian dialectic, I'll just Vart. No Steve Cray on the firm today, apparently. He's got family over from America. Yeah, I wouldn't stream if I had family over from America. I'd get the fuck out of the house. Right, now, because I've got the shirt on, I can have a little bit more tit. Right, so we've got Rags looking after the place. That's lovely. But it's the introduction. It's when I tell you about this fella's effect on me, on young Dangerfield. This is why this is interesting, because he knew me when I was like 18. He knew me when I was at the prime of my ponce. He knew me when I was at the peak of my prickness. So there's a little room for what I like to call Unuva there. Right, let's say some hellos because the riffraff are always in first. And it's always a pleasure. And while that's happening, a few more people to turn up. Hello, Alan. Good to see you, mate. Always a pleasure. Hoyt to that. Snoopy's in like a beagle. Browning's in bed because she lives in Australia. Where's my vape? I need to hold on to that like a castrated penis. Deadbeat Chess, lovely. Martin, hello. Rags, Hoyt to you. Hello, James. You all right, son? Charlie Sparkles, absolutely repping it. The Last of Us here. Talking about culture tests. Good Lord, it's a bit early for that kind of crack, isn't it? I didn't say crack. I meant the crack, like the Irish do. There's a lot of crack in Ireland, actually. I can tell you why, because I took 14 kilos out of there myself once. How'd you package laughter? With gaffer tape and about 20 carrier bags. Nice to see you, though, Henry, as ever, and The Last of Us. Dennis is on the firm. Who else we got here quickly? Oh, they were all talking at the start. Packer, hello, Packer. Hello to Packer's missus on the sofa there. Hope you're both all right. It'll be a pleasure. Mousecat, hello, mate. Say hello to your missus if she's wandering around. Wondering. Well, she does wonder, doesn't she? I wonder about her sometimes. Boom, it was straight out of the Morecambe and Wise playbook. Shepherd is on the firm. It's on the firm. Shepherd's on the firm. He's on the firm. Nice to see you, mate. Who else we got here? Scorry, hello, son. Nice to see you. Hello, John. Looking forward to this. Good. Me too. I hope I look back to it as well. I don't watch my streams, but I did watch the last one with this fella because I was nervous. Dr. Science. You ain't no doctor. Oh, yes. You're like Dr. Shipman of Science. I don't know whether that's invented the stammer. Hello, Debbie. Nice to see you. Sparkles. European housewife. Hello, my love. Hope you're well. John Francis is on the firm. I think we're pretty much out of the riff-raff, aren't we? Hello, Ralph. Good to see you. Hello, Lumi. What an absolute pleasure. Hello, John. Right, I think we're going to... Vart! Didn't hear the Vart, though. Did anyone hear it? Vart! JC has also... Why are we not getting the Varts? 2 donations coming. Hello, Jays, keeping the Twitch massive. Sorry about this, Tim. I will be getting there in a minute, but as I told you, they're lovely people, and I've already had 2 donations, which I have to deal with because it's polite. It's kind. Is that a thumbs up? There you go, a little head back. It's grifting, you know, that's it. Play your own thumb pit. Did you like thumb pit, though? I'm talking to him and you. Technology, eh? Oh, I should have been a hacker. Telford's on the firm. Hello, Debbie. I said, hello, Ralph. Ludwig is here. Ludwig should be a writer. He writes the best literary reviews I've ever read. They are about my writing, so, you know, I'm kind of biased. Hello, Sean. Right, I think I'm about done. If I've missed you, I'll catch up with you a bit later. Hello, Baz. Hello, Keys to the Kingdom. Hello, Lee. Right, I don't know why we didn't get the Varts. Nice one, Henry. Machano Caprasha Tutu. JC's dropped an absolute whopper of a bomb into entropy. Me and him have been having such a laugh. That freaking Amex card is driving us both mad. We're like a couple of kids before Christmas. Neither of us have got it yet. Neither of us have been confirmed. What? There you go. We got that one. That one came in loud and unclear. I'm not going to explain the VART to you, Tim. It's got too many stages of simulacra to get to. But a couple of donations. JC, I mean, I told you before, donations, they're so encouraging. And when JC drops a ton, a 100-pound napalm, boom, boom, boom. He says, shades on, looking forward to this one. When he talks about having his shades on, it's because he's waiting for that Amex card to reflect light into his eyes. And I'm not joking either. That's that joke. Nice one, JC. An absolute pleasure. And thank you, Henry. Much appreciated. We're nearly there. Hello, St. George's Sue. Hello, Shane. Hello, Pelosi's portfolio. Hello, Martha. Right. Oh, hang on a minute. Hello, Pizzle. Good to see you. Hello, Brad. Everyone's turning up for this one. Good Lord. Anglo, you lovely bastard. Bonjour, me old China. We've kind of done an Anthony Burgess on us, because Anthony Burgess kind of took Cockney rhyming slang and sort of Russian, well, just Russian, and you've taken a little bit of Vat, a little bit of slang and a bit of French. You're going to write a digital apple. If you want. There's no one's going to force you. Thank you, Anglo. Much appreciated. I grilled that steak you told me was for stewing, and all I learned really was that it was for stewing. It was like eating solid elastic bands. Absolutely unpleasant. So thank you, everyone who's opened the grift off. Very encouraging. Put me in a very good mood, because money does. That would be ridiculous to say otherwise. And of course, it pisses off all my haters, which is that a Schadenfreude? Do you like that? Schadenfreude? I told Tim 5 minutes. It's now been fucking 13.49. But I am stopping right now. I know, mate. He's what? They're donating to stop you coming on. It's part of the joke. Packer says, good on your tutor. Imagine the tool you could have been without his guidance. Is that ironic, Packer? I get the feeling there's a little bit of a joke there. Thank you, Packer. Thank you, what's the name? Who says, hello, what's the name? Thank you very much, what's the name? Right, now listen, here's what I want to tell you. So my old man died when I was 16. I was already taking drugs, but like not crack and heroin. I hadn't discovered the good stuff. But I was drinking like a beagle. I'd been drinking since I was about 11. Bit of Tipex thinners here and there. Plenty of acid, and a little bit of speed, just for the sex, because I didn't feel very comfortable touching people's bodies without drugs. And I washed up at art college in Dartington. I went to be a graphic designer. They said, you're more of an artist. They sent me to an art school. They went, you're more of a performance artist. So they sent me to this place in Totnes in Dartington, and I didn't have a fuck what was going on. I was just out of my mind, a lost child. And I was coasting it, really. I was quite bright. I could just blag it. I didn't pay attention to anything they said. And then if I had to write an essay, I just read a couple of books and just done it the night before. And they were like, oh, that's brilliant. You really obviously thought about that. I was like, thought about what? Then this fella turned up. Oh, all jokes aside, it wasn't the way he looked, the way he held himself, the way you weren't going to get away with any bullshit. There was now a challenge. There was like, oh, hang on. He's not just some hippie going, oh, that's a lovely colour. You're good at art. You had to work. And I'd spent, this was my 4th year at art school, 2nd year of a degree, but 4th year, I hadn't worked once, not anything, nothing. And I realised that you had to work. And he changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. Made me realise that if you want to be an artist, and I wanted to be a writer really, which is an artist, a creative. I wanted to be a creative, you know, and you can, however you want to do that. But writing was really my passion. But if you want to do it, you've got to make it count. And how many times have you heard me say that? Make it count. You know, you've got to make it count. You've got to put the work in. You know, you've got to be an expert like an architect. An architect has studied for years and years so that they can design a house that family can live in and function in. And that makes them an expert. And that's what separates them from someone who isn't an architect. And there's loads of artists and writers and musicians and all sorts who aren't experts in that manner. They're blaggers, they're cheaters, they're liars. They don't understand what they're doing and its relevance. You know, it doesn't have to do anything, but you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware of it doing nothing. Picasso said it took him half his life to learn to draw and the second half of his life to learn to undraw. Anyway, I'm going to bring him on. This is my one-time primary tutor and mentor, Professor, fucking Professor, Tim Brennan.
Hello.
How are you, Tim?
I'm good, thanks. I've been listening. I've been listening to that, and I've been listening to it's impressive, and I've been listening to all the parish notices and the hellos. Quite phenomenal, really. Enjoyable. It's enjoyable.
You know what? I never set up to make a community. I just made a YouTube channel, and this has been a real organic process. And they're wonderful people, you know. I stream once, twice a day, and they're here. Look at them. Look. Good afternoon, Tim.
There they are. They're all in there. I'm sort of evading clicking the comments bit so that I can't see them all, because otherwise I'll forget that I'm having a conversation with you. But imagine if way back or whenever, back there in Dartington, a long time ago, if I'd come in and gone, Chris, I think you should make a community. What would you? What? Well, you know,
it's a great. Do you know what I'd say? I'd say, have you been to Police House 4?
And I'd say not yet, but I may be living opposite in Police House 1 in about I don't know 18 months time or something. Yeah, so, no, but I wouldn't say that, would I? Because I wouldn't have been able to scope out the future in that way.
Well, we had a community going there. We had a very
you did
good
no community. Absolutely. But if I'd said to you as a kind of incoming artist or something, like, I think you should make like a community, you may have said bye. You know, but I kind of, it would have been funnier than bye. It would have been, I've just got to go and do something important. Maybe.
Yeah, no, you're right. I thank you, Frenchie, for that, Lady Godiva. I answered you then how I would now. But if you'd have said then, I think you should form a community, I'd be like, you disgusting hippie. I don't like people. I want to form no community. A community. It's all about wordplay, Tim, at the end of the day.
I like that. That's very good, that.
You can have it.
And I would have, if I'd had, you know, the hair that I'd had kind of, I don't know, 10 years before then. And secretly I had all of the references that I really liked for their length of hair. Obviously, length of hair is just to kind of signify it, you know, the rest of it. And I'd said, I think you should make a community. And then followed it up with something like, you know, good for your soul, right? It wouldn't have worked. And actually, I had ground zero motivation to say such a thing at that point, because I had a skinhead-ish, number one, and I think I had an M1 jacket. I had two. I had a black one and I had a green one, and I had probably the kind of black Levi thing, and probably had a fishing jacket on, Why would he have one? We can ask that question later.
Can I ask you, how much had you contrived?
How much did it cost? No.
Do you want for it now?
You can get a few on your Amex card.
That I haven't got that yet. How much had you contrived your appearance when? Because people in the chat need to know this. Dartington was a really odd place. It was like the last bastion of avant-garde sort of art in England, really. I really believe that. I know you kind of like the Slade and Goldsmiths. I think they're shitholes. But Dartington, you could get away with stuff. And they deliberately took loads of people from the Pool, which the Pool is the place where people didn't get into anywhere else. But Dartington set aside a lot of places because they knew within the Pool, you got unicorns, you got strange people, and you got the potential for people who might not have been able to toe the line, but might be able to offer something interesting. But
so the question at the question at the moment was, did you contrive that look?
No, I just want to give the people a bit of context because we'd already looked at Tim's work. Tim was like a working artist. He was earning money and putting shows on.
Yeah.
And for us as students, that was unheard of. I mean, maybe Roger was his fountains in roundabouts, maybe. But Tim was a working performance artist, and we looked at his work, and it was excellent. And I thought it was great, and everything. And so for him to arrive and say, "I'm going to be your tutor," and then to actually teach us, it was incredible. But did you know that? And you know, this is going to be an hard one to answer. Did you know the impact that you had? Because I put in the description of this video, you didn't only turn my world upside down, you turned that whole art school upside down. You really did.
I'll reserve whether it's a compliment or not, because it actually was pretty kind of heavy personal wreckage, really, when after a while, you know, what went on. But if I start with the image, is it Afrikaans for something? Vard? Is it the double?
You're never going to track that back.
No, I'm not. Anyway, let me keep chipping away at it in little bits like punctuation marks throughout. All right. So basically, you know, we'll start with what I kind of look like first. Well, it wasn't. It was out of sync totally with Dartington, right?
Yeah.
But when I was a teenager, and I'm not that much older than you. I am a bit, but not.
What were you? You were about 7-8 years older than me, weren't you?
Yeah.
But it felt like a lot more.
So how old?
No, not like that. Just in terms of your experience, you know.
Yeah. So basically, I was born in '66, and you were born in '73, probably
72. So there you go, 6 years.
Right. Well, nearly. Right. So it was quite close, really, if you think about it, in terms of tutors and students. Right. So 10 years for me before, teenager, school, sixth former, long hair, all the wrong. Would you recommend the modern university experience, or is higher education irredeemably captured by insane politics? We'll come to that in a bit, Grego. Is that all right?
And Grego, I've also got to say, and I should say this to everyone, Grego, nice one for that Lady Godiva, and it's a good question. Tim is in the academy, so there are certain routes he might not be able to go down, and I've given him that. I've already said to him if there's anything, because you know he's got a family and a kid to feed, and so he has to, but I'm sure he'll give you some answer to that.
I will definitely, absolutely, definitely. Yeah,
but I hope people can understand that, and I'm sure you will.
Yeah, but right, okay. So sixth former, long hair. You know what? I didn't really. There were obviously was communities of long hair, but we're clearly talking in the post-punk era in school with long hair. You were like, you're a hippie, you know. Well, I probably am actually. Yeah.
So what's this about 1978?
Well, probably about 80, really. Like when it kicks in,
Okay.
yeah, 14. For me. 14. It started to kick in with the long hair. Looks like a handsome chap with a smiley face. I keep getting distracted. Very good, thank you. I don't know, probably all lies. Interesting though, and I'll have it.
You're learning it. Look at that. Look, already our Pizzle has put a T in the chat for Tim, and for 5 minutes that you're winning. You're winning.
What is a T in the chat? I'm
Well, your name's
significantly.
Tim. Your name's Tim. That's the T. But to get a call out that early, you know,
Is that the equivalent of that thing in spoken word or something? Is it a bit like that? But better. But better. Right, moving on. Or moving back in time. So, you know, all the subcultures, you could be in one, you couldn't be in the other back then, and all of that kind of stuff. Right. So I go to art school and I still have long hair. It's getting longer because I wasn't having anybody at school to tell me to cut it. Right. No Christian brothers saying cut your hair. So at art school in the first year, the foundation year, you do traditionally you do a 1 year finding out year in your hometown, right?
Yeah.
Which was Sunderland, right? We'll not talk about Sunderland much, right? And then so I'm growing my hair. Then I go and do me degree, my fine art degree in Hull, right?
And was that, when you say fine art, was that literally painting, or was you already doing like contemporary performance work?
Yeah, so I was lucky to go. I think to go on a foundation course in my hometown that was really kind of open. It was a really good foundation course. It was really open. It wasn't like, well, you can do painting, sculpture, maybe printmaking. Don't do anything else, otherwise you're an idiot. It was like, we want you to, you know, here's, you know, there was all the choices like designer and, you know, you're going to go to fashion and all of that.
See, my foundation wasn't painter, sculptor, or printmaking.
So mine was like, you know, kind of pretty open in terms of if you were thinking about fine art, it was open. So then I was able to pick an art school that wasn't the number one. It wasn't seen to be the number one. It was in the north of England in Hull. But we were told, and it was true, that it was a very open fine art course. So you could work in sculpture, but you could also make videos. You could make performance work and photography. You could do all of that. You could work across, and you would get expertise to try and kind of like work out, you know, how narrow or how broad you wanted your work, your approaches to making the work, what you wanted that to be.
Sorry to interrupt. Lumi says Hull, the only place worse than Sunderland. Okay,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a very clever bloke, actually. All right, as a couple of people have been asking what your politics are. People, I've got a load of cultural artifacts, and rather than just ask someone what are your politics, that's a dry question. When we start looking at these, when I start rolling VT, you'll start getting an understanding there with cultural artifacts, because then it gives it a bit of context rather than saying I'm this or I'm this, because I don't even know if that actually means anything these days. So carry on. So
I like it. It's a really good way of thinking about it, and it helps me actually, because, you know, maybe 6-7 years ago I would have gone, it's this.
Yeah.
I'm not coming on your show. But now I would 6 years, maybe 6 or 7, 8 or 9, you know, but I would have come on because you're Chris, you see. But anyway, right. Okay. So when I get to do my degree, it's like, it's really not a good idea suddenly, or at least that was the feeling I had, rightly or wrongly. Get your hair cut, you know. So you're looking at kind of what, 1984 into 5 then. 4 into 5 wasn't a good idea. So by the time, and I had a mate, well, everybody was wearing that slick back hair thing with the Mark 1 bomber jacket, or whatever you call it, pilot's jacket, I guess, and Levi's. It was that Levi time, and then the white socks, and the Dr. Martens shoes, but then you could get the steel cap Dr. Martens shoes.
When you say everyone, I think the art school crowd.
Men, the males, the males.
Males. Yeah, the males were. Yeah.
All right.
Get to how you ended up working as an artist. Less of your haircut.
Well, I started to show work in the second year. Started to show work in the second year. I'm talking about the control.
Hang on, the second year of your undergraduate degree, you were exhibiting work.
Yeah.
Wow. Because that's not normal, is it?
Actually, the first year, at the end of the first year, I had an exhibition of photographs at the Poston Gate Gallery in Hull. Actually, Hull for me then was better than Sunderland because it didn't have galleries. There's many galleries. So, and then in the second year,
off your own back. Was that off your own back? Did you just think I'm making work?
So I was making performance work from probably the first few months in. I was lucky enough to have a really interesting. One of them was a really interesting tutor who changed my life really because I said I want to make performance, but
was that Stuart
I
Grizzly?
need to know what it is first before
was
I
that
make
Stuart Grizzly?
No.
Okay.
It was. I wish I could find her. You know, I can't find her to say thank you. Like thank you for saying thank you to me. It was awesome that you did that. I mean, I'm blown away. But I wanted to say it to Catherine Morley, who was like a critical theory tutor, but she'd been in some wild performance things in the 60s, and she said, "Look, anybody who's interested in performance, I'll do a little group. We can have a group, you know, and talk about stuff. We can try things out, whatever." So I kind of joined that, and I said, I want to do performance in that squeaky voice, but I'll need to know what it is, because what is it? It's not theatre. It's not this. It's not that. What is it? I don't know. She said, no, you need to just make something. Do something, you know. And so then I did. And so it's about, you know, for me, it was about building your own kind of live, not a show, not a this, not a that. Might have a bit of that, might have a bit of this, but doing stuff instead of making an object, which I was doing as well because it was open, making an object and putting it in over here, you see, I'm pretending there's some sort of gallery or something. I'm putting it in the gallery. So not about putting in the ground, about doing stuff in the gallery, out of the gallery that you might start to, if you like, interpret or read or consume with the same kinds of thinking that you would when you look at a sculpture and that. But of course it wasn't a sculpture. It was me, you know, kind of wanting to break down the barrier between the person that walks in and looks at the sculpture and the work, or the barrier between the audience and the person on the stage doing a piece of theatre. I thought naively, but it got me somewhere. I thought by doing things, it would bring a kind of direct confrontational connection with people. Which it did. Why did I want to do that? That's a brilliant question, really. I thought that at that time, that objects like sculptures or paintings or photographs were limited in terms of what you might be able to do, where you might be able to go with something. I thought that there was and I also did think that there was a problem culturally with a lot of people feeling alienated from being allowed to understand something or to connect with something, or, you know, feeling that they weren't in a kind of art thing to be able to get on with it. So I cut my hair, and then because the performance at that time was very much about stripping it all back, then the hair got shorter eventually. So then when I went later on, I went to another art school. I went to Slade to do a postgrad straight away, and the hair got shorter then, and the performance work got more about the power that's in the room, the authority in the room. So it's about me as a performer, if you like, or an artist having authority as that person, but my performances were about what happens if I offer that authority out. What are they going to do with it? What will they do with it if I, confront them with something? What happens if I lock the door and we're all in here? Oh, and I've swallowed the key. That kind of thing. How do we get out? So then the negotiation, the politics, and how the authority shifts, and how the authority, how it's taken up, what the responsibility is around it. That became really the focus of the work for a long time. So it was getting pretty hard edged, if you like, for want of a better term, in that way. And a lot of people were getting either really into it, or uncomfortable and not happy with it, or into it and uncomfortable and not happy with it. and then by that time, I'd been out of art schools for about 2 years, and I'd been showing work around Europe, but I'd already been showing work in Europe as a student.
But that must have been quite amazing. That, it's really hard to succeed as an artist at such a young age. I mean, you must now be talking, what, 24? 23, 24, and you're exhibiting around Europe.
I was showing when I was an undergraduate. I had a show of some of those photographs of my work, photographs of performances in Bulgaria when I was a second year undergraduate, because we were just like looking at what the opportunities were. There were newsletters and things that would say, here's an opportunity. I go, all right, I go for that then. Right, send something off. British Council show in Plovdiv in Bulgaria, and then it's going to go to Sofia in Bulgaria. Yeah, I'm going to send them that. All right, then you're in. Oh, right, that's what you do. Okay, that's what you would have done then. And then this is before it became really, really market driven for all age groups. So it was possible then, especially in the north of England, to make a lot of performance, because there was a lot of networking in the north of England and also in Dartington in the southwest, where there was a lot of student performances, exchanges going on between students, and then them inviting artists to make work in their student run festivals and stuff. So you would have artists from the late 60s going, I'm going to go and make a work in Dartington or in Sheffield or in Hull or in Cardiff or whatever. So there was this very healthy thing going on. I think it was healthy. So I'd been showing in Europe and elsewhere for quite a while. But so a couple of years after being in art schools, I come back to London, and I think I need to get a job that isn't this sort of part-time gig that I've got with this washing dishes in Soho, in a cafe, in a sandwich cafe, right? On Ingerster Place, right? I need to get something that gives me a bit more money. And at that time, there was this idea that if you could get a job in an art school, you could run your practice, as it would be called, your art world thing at the same time, and they would inform each other. So I looked in a newspaper like called.
You can say The Guardian on here. You'll be all right. People.
No, you said it. No,
you thought it. You looked in it. You got a job from it.
I didn't even mouth it. I just went like that, and you knew exactly. But of course, the art school that you were at was advertised in that newspaper.
That's really dumb.
And I thought, oh, look at that then. They want a lecturer, in visual performance. I thought, what is that? I've never heard of visual performance before. I've heard of performance art. I've heard of live art as a term because it had just been invented by the Arts Council. They invented the term live art. I've still got the document that I've got the document that they, anyway, it's boring. You don't need to know. And nobody needs to know.
I like the idea that the Arts Council invented that they put two words together, live art. I mean, no one knew what visual performance was, even anyone who.
So this was a Dartington thing, but it was basically live art, performance art. Put a bucket on your head, eat a fish, so long as it's not dead. Probably, yeah. Well, whatever. That would be interesting at Dartington. I don't know. And I thought, well, I'm going to go for this. And I went to see my tutor at the Slade. Now, the Slade was like the course that I'd been on at the Slade. Here's the funny thing, right? Was an excellent course that I was on.
The Slade was well respected for sure.
It was a very good course for creating or supporting the sort of tough end asking questions of stuff. Students that might do that, or young artists that might do that. But it was a bit like the London School of Economics in terms of art skills. So it had this kind of Marxist left history to it. You just lost everybody now. But it was creating these artists, not all of them, only the ones in the particular area that I was applying to in fine art, not the painters necessarily, not the sculptors necessarily, not printmakers, but in what was called media fine art, but not media in the terms of we use it today. Media back then was very much sort of created in the art schools, that word media. That's where the word comes from. So anything that was like video art, film, lens-based, so photographs, photocopies, performance, photocopies again, performance, would be kind of like in there. So I went to my old tutor, right? I went to my old tutor and I said, I'm going to apply for this. Will you be my referee? And he went, where's this then? And I went, oh, it's in Dartington. He said, don't go there. You don't want to, do you really want to go there? And I said, well, why not? He went, well, it's kind of pretty kind of, it's basically this medieval setup. It's like, he said it's this feudal setup, and it was set up in the 1930s.
Did he actually say feudal or medieval?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant because I was thinking, oh shit, I'm gonna have to keep looking for something, right? But anyway, he goes, it's set up in the 1930s by Lord and Lady Elmhurst, and basically, on their estate, they thought they could bring in artists and kind of like, it's a feudal. It's a lord and lady or the squire in his manor, and it's like, well, yeah, we can have a bit of that. And
I've never heard it called feudal, and I don't know why, because it just nails it. It's hilarious.
And he nailed it, right? And he went, so do you really want it? Are you sure you want to apply that? And I knew at that time what he was saying was, are you letting the side down here?
Oh, interesting. Are you going to, okay.
At least that's what I thought. So, I don't want to kind of say that's what Stuart was thinking, but, I think that's how I felt. That's how I felt. I was going, oh, no, I'm going to let the side down. I can't apply there. And he said, but he said, let's see what you can do there. I'll write a reference.
There you go.
And I went, okay. So I wrote the thing, and then he wrote me this reference, and I sent it off, and I thought, naive. I thought, oh, something might come of that. I mean, you wouldn't do that now. You'd go like, oh, I'll give it a go, and probably get rejected, because highly regulated kind of system of applying. You know what it's like. And I get this letter back saying, yeah, anyway, blah, blah, blah. So I do my interview, and part of the interview, I think it was a long interview. Was it a day or 2 days? It was 2 days.
I remember
I had to do a workshop with the student. I had to do a workshop with the students. And I like a teaching demonstration.
Yeah, you come and spoke to us. You talked to us.
Yeah,
And it went over all of our heads because we'd never had any, no disrespects to, I won't name them, but they didn't challenge us. They didn't expect us to know stuff. They didn't expect us to read things. And you came in and it wasn't like, I'm going to show off now. You were like, this is what I do. And none of us understood it. I tell you that. We were very impressed, but it was like, shit, we're not. We're so...
That's interesting, because now if students didn't understand a teaching demonstration as part of an interview, the person that would be taken into consideration. Well, we didn't understand it. It was interesting, but we didn't understand it. Ah, right. I probably wouldn't have got the job. Right.
Yeah,
but
no,
anyway,
for sure.
I wouldn't have got the job. So I get this. And also I was like really young and I didn't have a history of having jobs teaching. I'd done like a couple of talks at Loughton Foundation. I'd done one at Loughton Foundation course. I'd done one talk at Loughton Foundation course about my work. Anyway.
That was your teaching history.
That was my teaching history. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'd done. Right. And I probably hadn't done many workshops. Not really. Anyway, I think I'd done one. Right. So I get this letter back a couple of weeks later, and I've been washing dishes downstairs. I go upstairs to the flat, and I got this letter, and it's like, oh, you've got an interview. So I got this interview. I did 2-day interview, and then I got another letter saying, oh yeah, we've got the job. You've got the job.
Moved down to
Dartington. I've got a job, right? So, and apparently, so you find these things out afterwards. The principal, can't remember her name now.
Janet Ritterman.
There you go. Janet Ritterman. Apparently, so I was told, she was very impressed with my handwriting, because she was, what's the word for it? Where people read, you know, they look at handwriting, they kind of read a personality.
Someone in the chat will know, something like graphology, something like that.
Something like that, you know. And it's like, and I thought, somebody told me this, right, pretty soon after I arrived. And I thought, what kind of a place is this really? This is a weird place. Right?
It was, yeah.
I thought, this is weird. But I already thought this is weird. And then I got briefed by the staff, and they went, right, this is the year. This course had been going for 1 year in the world, right? Yeah. And Chris,
my first year,
you were the pioneer year, right? Right. They said, right. They said they're an interesting bunch. But it was like that. It was kind of like that. They're an interesting bunch, and I could feel this sort of thing. So there must have been something to do with feelings and vibrations going on, which I wouldn't have had anything to do with that. And they were like saying graphology.
There you go.
Brilliant. And I could feel this kind of, it's great. There you go. They're an interesting bunch. Let's see. Yeah. And then they were going like, well, watch out for this one's like this, and that one's like that. Oh, and there are these three.
I wonder who they could have been.
Oh, wait a minute. Was it three? It was probably three in how it panned out, but there are these two at the time. Yeah. And you're going to have to do a bit of work with these.
They gave me a mention like that. They said you're going to have to do a bit of work.
Yeah, they did, yeah. You're going to have to, you need to do some work with these. And I'm thinking, who are these people telling me about this? Because I'm not convinced I understand what kind of work they mean that I need to do. Anyway, I just thought, stuff this, I'm going in. I'm going in. So I went in. So we know about the clothes, we know about the history, we know about that. And and I went in. But of course, I didn't fit visually with anything else that was there. And I mean anything, anybody else. There was nobody else that looked, apart from a girlfriend. But she didn't have a skinhead, but you know, she had.
I want everyone else to know the majority of the people at Dartington were just hippies, crusties, like I had dreadlocks, or very just sort of art students. But Tim had this sort of military thing going on.
Yeah, so I look like a paramilitary sort.
Yeah, you look like you just come out of an helicopter, and he upset people. Tim upset people just because he wasn't unnecessarily over friendly.
And
you know, all the other students.
Yeah, so the nearest town, the nearest place, like settlement, no, beyond the art school, Dartington, which was a mile away from the town of Totnes. So I lived in the town of Totnes because I couldn't drive. I'd never learned how to drive.
Shire.
I can drive now. It's Tolkien, right? But it's feudal, remember? Lord and Lady, right? And then there's a squire in his garden. That's what Stuart Brisley said. It's a squire in his garden. And I was like, oh, okay then. Anyway, so Totnes is got buildings in it and shops that are all selling things that are to do with the description that you've just done, Chris, right? Of everybody's.
Yeah. Yeah, all the shops down there will just kick you out. You can walk into a shop and come out of goth. You can walk in and come out of crusty. There's another one you can walk in and come out an hippie. And every student, as I've told these people many times, every student, they turn up looking normal. Within 3 weeks, they've shaved half their head, plaited the other half, and they've completely
Because of me?
Just, well, there was our lot did, I think. I did.
Because I had this thing.
But hang on. Whoa. I've got to limit you a little bit because of time, because you've got a time limit. Do you remember it was your first, I wasn't in this class. It was your first lesson with the year below me, and you washed all their feet. You had a bowl of soapy water, and they'd never met you before. And you went in and you washed all their feet. And at the end of doing that in silence, you said, if we're going to get anywhere, you're going to have to trust me.
And so how it worked was, they said the college or the tutors said, right, on a Monday morning, we do S101. That's the kind of serial number of the module, right? S101 module is a drawing module, and we do it every Monday. And I said, well, why do we need to do drawing if we're doing performance? What do we need to do that for? And said, well, we think it's important, like it's an important thing to keep the drawing going, And I was like, right, okay. And I thought, well, I'm not doing that. I'm going to pretend that drawing can be anything. So what I did was with that year, first session, I said, right, okay, so can you take your socks and shoes off? I'd set it all up before. I used to go in and I'd set up the whole thing, and there was this table with glasses on it, shot glasses on it. It was all set up. No, it wasn't actually. This is what happened. You went in and there was chairs, right? So you sat down and I said, can you take your shoes and socks off, please? And so they all get their shoes and socks off, right? And somebody said, well, why are we doing that? And I said, don't worry about why. It'll all unfold. It'll be okay. Just trust me.
There you go. It will be okay.
You trust me, you'll be fine. It's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. Take shoes and socks off, please. So they all took their shoes and socks off. You couldn't do this now. You wouldn't be able to do it.
No, you wouldn't be allowed to touch people like that.
No, you couldn't do it now. So grapho, is it? So you have to work with this. This is my way of answering your question in bit parts.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that now. So take your shoes. So they all took their shoes and socks off. It was about 20 people, let's say, right? So I said, right, can you follow me? You're not allowed to talk. I seem to think you couldn't talk, and you had to be in a single file. So we went for a walk around this building. It's not very far. There's no cars, buses, anything like that. That's all a mile away, right? That's all a mile away in Totnes, right? Right. So this is on a hill, right? And they go for a walk and they come back in. Now, by the time they come back in, magically, what's appeared is a bowl of water and a towel and one chair, and then a table at the background with all these shot glasses on them. And I said, right, could you, what's your name? I think I probably asked the name, and sit down. And then I washed their feet and I dried their feet. And then I did them one by one. And then I can't remember which way around it was. I think then I asked them all to have a shot of this Polish vodka. Could have been a different workshop, but anyway, you get the idea. They all had a shot of Polish vodka first thing on a Monday.
Because what you probably don't know is that's all everyone spoke about for the next week. Really? Or every year, the music course, the theatre course, the visual performance course, there's this geezer turned up and he'd done that. It was incredible. It was incredible because I'd had a year there, and it was just, and it was incredible because people were waking up. People started realizing that we all thought we were out there. We all thought we were, we were the cutting edge, and we were fuck all. We were children.
Well, what I thought was because a lot of people lived on site. A lot of the students lived on site in this place called Block.
That's Block A,
and
Block
then
B.
Also, there were rooms in the old Dartington school, which we don't need to get into the history of that. It's interesting.
What, the Dartington school where I think
right.
I told them.
Right. Okay. So students lived there, and you had to go into Totnes for any semblance of the built environment. Right, and there were no things in Totnes that you might resist.
I'm just going to interrupt here because our Pizzle has just said Tim is kind of cool. People, it's hard to explain to you. I know, you know what my thoughts are about university. You know what my thoughts are about art school these days. But things were different then, and that. Tim is kind of cool is such the understatement of the century. Back then, seriously, I felt like I was wasting my time there. It was just a place to fuck girls and get pissed, which has got a place in a young man's life. But for someone to turn up and completely and thank you, Chrissy, for that last part. Anglo-Saxon said $5 to wash my feet. I'll get it to Tim, Anglo. When we have the in real life meet up in London, I'll see if I can get Tim down.
Oh, brilliant! That'd be good. That'd be good.
A man turned up a very weird, as he said, feudal kind of medieval little Tolkien-esque world.
It really is. It was like that,
and it was never the same again. And it really wasn't. And there are things I can't tell you about that happened that were just mind-blowing. I remember I'm rushing you on now, Tim, because I want to get to the
Yeah. Fine.
But I remember one of my first
There's more than one show in this. No, keep going.
Okay. I remember my first tutorial with Tim. We ended up talking about the morality of a piece of artwork where you had a glass of vodka, a glass of water, and a glass of poison, and whether that was something you could do. And it was because I think people snort lines of cocaine off of toilet cisterns that someone else has left there, so people will take chemicals unknown, frequently. And I had that sort of thing in my head. And you were saying to me, well, if you present that and people choose to drink that, well, that's their choice. And then I would sort of say to Tim, yeah, but they die if they drink the poison. And then you say, and that's probably your fault, the artist. And everything I tried to think, I get what he's saying, it'd turn it back at me. So there wasn't an answer, because there isn't, and there isn't in art. It was easy for Tim to say, if they drank that poison, that was their choice. And I'll be, I get it, because they drunk it. And then he'd be like, yeah, but you put it there. And I'll be like, oh, fuck this, man. This is kind of go back to last year. So it was incredible. And I guarantee my life goes a very different direction without Tim turning up at Dartington, and probably a very disappointing direction. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I don't regret anything I've done. It's been an amor fati as far as I'm concerned, and I'll do that all over again, given the choice. Right, Timothy.
All right, then. All right.
We're gonna, as people have asked about politics, etc. Well, you say that, Pizzle, the old powder up the nose. What we used to do down in Jerry's nightclub was put we'd leave a line of ketamine on the top of the toilet. And then we'd sit outside near the toilet door and see who went in there and thought, oh, someone's left a line of cocaine. And they'd woof that ketamine up and they'd come out like they were walking on the moon. Your fault. My tutor told me. Right, we're going to have a look at some cultural artifacts. I've got some music. I've got some photos. I've got an article. I've got various things. And they're just going to be conversation starters. Okay? Yeah. Now, there is a problem playing music on YouTube that I mentioned earlier. Occasionally, what's her name? YouTube, Susan, who runs YouTube, will shut you down for 4 minutes. But I've only got one, and I've only got a little bit of it, so I think we'll get away with it. Okay. So here's the first one. Hang on a minute, and I can't play it all, but I've tried to play the relevant bit. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. Most of you are going to know it. Oh, look at that. Bison said, let the professor speak. He said speech, but I'll let you have it. Oh, no, I will do. It's just he's got limited time here, and I want to get through these.
I'm all right for a bit long. I can do a bit longer.
But I've also got a surprise lined up. So there's an element of timing. Okay, but I understand people. It's lovely to have 130 people here. A real pleasure, and thank you, Chrissy. I missed your VAR, so thank you for that. So here we go. It's a small clip because I don't want to get yeeted. Oh God, it's 48 seconds. I will get yeeted. I'm gonna have to clip this a little bit. But here we go. This is the first clip, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna have to mute myself because I don't want to put my headphones in. So I'll see you in a moment.
I heard you on the wireless back in 52, lying awake intently tuning in on you. If I was young, it didn't stop you coming through. They took the credit for your second symphony, rewritten by machine on new technology. And now I understand the problems you could see. I met your children. What did you tell them? Video killed the radio star.
And as much as I'd like to play more of that, we might be yeeted already. So I don't need to tell you that's Buggles. What do you make of that, Tim?
So when that came out, I thought, so when did that come out? 78?
That's
maybe?
1980.
1980. Wow.
The first ever song and video to be played on MTV.
This is true. Very true. Yeah. So when it came out, it was on Top of the Pops. And I thought, oh, what's going on? I'm going to have to answer this a bit autobiographically. I'm sorry, everybody.
Well, there was no question, so crack on.
And it's interesting that you chose that. So I thought, oh, no, because at the time I had this long hair. So I'm pleased I told you about that. And I was going to see bands in 1980, the new wave of British heavy metal and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Name
and
some.
I thought, who? So Iron Maiden on their second album before they got Bruce Dickinson, and UFO, and loads of them, just tons, hundreds of them. Ian Gillan. You don't need the list, do you? I can do it.
No, crack on.
Because it'll go on. Anyway, so I thought it was this, but I did. You see, at the time, my favorite band, here we go, was Yes, right? So Yes, a million miles away from, and you're all allowed to write no in the chat. It's okay. I understand. I've lived with it for years. And he's gone. He's left. That's it. He's on the plane now, empty flat in Cambodia. Anyway, so when that came out, I thought, no, that's not good. But what happens next is a couple of months later, the lead singer of Yes and the keyboardist, John Anderson and Rick Wakeman. You'll have heard of Rick Wakeman, maybe not John Anderson. They leave Yes, right? So I'm there with the sounds, because that's where you could get the information for those bands, not the enemy, sounds. And I'm going like, oh no, they've left Yes, that's it. I've arrived at their party a bit late. Typical. Yeah. And then about a month or so later, I don't know, maybe it was a bit later, the Buggles have joined Yes. The Yeggles.
No, you're joking.
No, I'm not.
Because Lumi just said the Buggles played on Drama, and that's the Yes album.
Yeah. So then that was like the first Yes album that I bought.
Sorry, was it the Buggles or Buggles?
It's Buggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. So Buggles. I like that. I like that. That's good. Unless I'm wrong, unless we're wrong, could be wrong. No, anyway, right. So they joined Lock, Stock and Barrel. There's only two of them, right? They joined Yes, right? And whoa! I thought, well, that's it. What is going on? That's outrageously bad idea. That's terrible. But I bought the album anyway, and I listened to it, and I thought, I didn't know. I didn't know what to think. And then I got a ticket to see them, right? Because I was going to see lots of gigs. And in 1981, and I saw them at Newcastle City Hall. And I thought, wow, this is weird, because they were actually really good. For Yes. They're like, Yes, were really good. If you are prepared to just imagine in your faintest possible imagination, if you have to imagine that you could like Yes, right? Okay, because I know they're not like. But anyway, the Buggles. But by then on their tour, Trevor Horn, lead singer of Buggles, with the Specs,
and Jeff Downs. By
then, he couldn't reach those high notes anymore, because he just couldn't handle it, the tour, right? So he steps back from the microphone, and as some of you will know, Yes had these extremely long songs, like 20 minutes, whatever, fit on the whole side of an LP, and the bass player, Chris Squire, stepped forward and sang the whole of Close to the Edge. And I thought,
hang on. Close to the Edge, Yes song, or Close to the Edge, Art of Noise?
Well, right, this is good, because we'll get to that in a minute if you want. Do you want me to get to that in a minute?
Well, first thing is, you've got a hell of a lot of Yes support in the chat, which is a little bit distressing, Scrubs.
Somebody said I've probably been at the same concerts. That's awesome, isn't it?
He said he went to loads of metal bands at Newcastle City Hall in the 80s.
Yeah, all right then. Illuminatus. Yeah. So me too. Yeah. Rory Gallagher. Yeah. Anyway, I dropped that in for him.
I just want to talk about the bit where
he's not heavy metal, but he was clumped in with all of that. Motorhead, saw Motorhead there.
You heard Buggles and you thought, it went to #1. It was on MTV. It's pop music.
Yeah.
And you into progressive rock. And when you're that age, your music is so much of your identity. You don't realize these are just professional musicians.
Yeah, no, you don't.
They know each other. And when you get a crossover like that, you just think, hang on a minute. No, I'm not part of that gang. I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want all the straights being part of my world.
And it was it was extremely strict back then. The culture had each subculture had doors with locks and chains on it. So you couldn't like Joy Division. You couldn't like Joy Division in Yes. You couldn't like, Mahavishnu Orchestra and ABBA. You couldn't do it. You weren't allowed. You're just not allowed, and you would be vilified. You would be cast out of your social network. That's it. You can go. You're an idiot. Right. So, but I was already sort of semi out because I like yes. Anyway, so it's quite good, really.
There's only two of you anyway.
Right. I kind of had gone through all of that anyway. So, or was going through it. So yeah. So then after that album, they kind of the Buggles left, but they didn't reform the Buggles, and Trevor Horn went on to do lots of production, but he put together Art of Noise, and close to the edit on Art of Noise is a direct reference to Close to the Edge, to the point where he got Chris Squire, of the bass player in Yes, to come into the studio and go dum 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 dum. That's his voice from Yes, and he also got Alan White, a drummer out of Yes at that time, to come in and do something with the beatbox or whatever, because that would be a term that would have been used then. You know, to do a kind of, I think he actually did a beatbox thing that they then put through an emulator and did that. Now, I never knew that until, you know, kind of nerdy hobbyist. I need to know everything, every detail. But yeah. And then later on, he produced Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and he got in the guitarist at Yes to do all the difficult bits on the acoustic guitar, The Power of Love and all of that. And so there's this long history, and then he goes back and he produces 90125 with the Yes hit, biggest hit that they had. What's it called?
Well, I'm not a
Owner
Yes
of
man.
a Lonely Heart. So Trevor Horn produces all of that album. There you go. But
I had lunch with Holly Johnson from Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Very good.
Yeah, it was good. It was at a charity gig. Him, Boy George. It was the gayest of lunches I've had, and I've had some gay lunches. Okay, amazing. What incredible that you got back to Close to the Edit. One of the first singles I bought. And I think the B-side's an absolute cracker, but I can't. Can you remember the B-side of the single?
No, but I remember the B-side. How does it go again?
It's something like doogie 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 doogie.
Is it the thingy gun, Ben?
No. I know what you're thinking. No, it's not. Not that guitar. The sort of famous sort of guitar bit. Are we thinking of the same thing? It's much like Close to the Edit, to be honest with you, but not.
I know the one you mean, but
melodically different.
Once I knew that connection in that way, I went and listened to the Art of Noise, and I thought, I get it. I get that now. I can see what's going on there, which was pretty good. I thought kudos in a way to me. But I remember the B-side.
The B-side is not
of a video called The Radio Stars called Kid Dynamo, and it's actually I quite like it, and I like that track. But probably I like it because of the future of what was about, what was going to happen. Yeah,
I mean, video killed the radio star to be the first song on MTV's. Just you can't. It's like a Borges. It's like a Jorge Borges story that he wrote in reverse. It's like
great,
okay, yeah, really good. Right, next cultural artifact.
I like this. Is good.
Now,
I'm a bit nervous.
This is interesting. We'll have no yeeting problems with this. I think most of the scrubs have seen this clip. This is very interesting. It's a couple of minutes long. I will explain to you afterwards what it is if you don't know. No, it's a minute long, 47 seconds long. If people can just give me an audio check so I know we're not just all... LOLC, nice to see you, mate. Incredible scrubs, incredible to see you all getting into what Tim's talking about. It's great. It's great. 125 people loving it.
I am amazed.
Right, check this out. Like I say, I think we've watched this before, but if you haven't, it's going to blow your mind. Well, it might not. You might not give a shit.
Probably will.
Let's have a look.
A bit worried.
What? I'll deal with that after the clip, Al.
So this is in some ways often called the first piece of conceptual art.
این را که ما می‌بینیم نمونه این بعضی مردم اولین کار هنر مفکوره‌ای میگن.
Does anyone know what it is?
شما کسی می‌فهمه چی است؟
I don't expect the ladies to know.
کمود است.
Exactly. An artist called Marcel Duchamp, who's very important in Western art, put this toilet in an art gallery about 100 years ago. It was a huge revolution.
There we are.
Any idea what that is? I know you know
Yes.
what the piece of work is, but do you know what that clip is?
Well, no, I don't. But do you want me to?
Well, no, I'll tell
Yes.
you because
Okay.
So that's a clip from what's his name? Adam? Is it Adam Curtis, the filmmaker? Adam. That's from Bitter Lake, which is based around what happened in Afghanistan over the last 50 odd years. A load of English feminist art students spent millions of dollars going out to Afghanistan to teach the Afghanistani women conceptual art, modern art. And that was one of their little sessions where they all sat there looking at it. And she got it wrong as well, because if you remember, Duchamp didn't put it, they didn't put it in the gallery. A photo was taken of it and put in another gallery. So not only was it a very bizarre thing to do, what do you make of that? 2013, I think they were teaching the wives of the Taliban about Marcel Duchamp's latrine.
I didn't know that. So that's So it's basically like a documentary because they actually did do that. Is that right?
That happened, yeah. That's
okay.
Yeah.
And also, therefore, there's also another mistake in there, is that the term conceptual art doesn't come up until the late 60s, so it's not even correct. So Duchamp wasn't a conceptual artist; he was an artist. He was an artist, and when his why am I asking you, Professor of Art Tim Brennan? I can't remember the exact date of Armut. It's called Armut after the.
Because it had Armut. It was signed Armut, wasn't it? I mean,
yes, it's signed Armut. So it's kind of like questioning who the artist is, but it's about 1919, I think.
1917, but they didn't put it in the gallery. It wasn't exhibited.
No,
they refused to. They took a photo and it was put in another gallery, which is, and so that's weird that she said, "Oh, it was a revolution." Well, that's quite a passive revolution there.
I think there's also there's a bit of a difficulty from my end of how I would teach. If I was going out to talk to Taliban women in Afghanistan, right?
That sounds like a song you'd write, Tim.
About art.
No, Taliban women in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
sorry, I interrupted.
It's got a thing to it, hasn't it? I can't remember what you call it. I don't know. Alliteration, somebody's going to say, probably. Taliban women in Afghanistan.
There's no alliteration there.
Carry on. It does a thing, though. It's got a thing. Something happens that's quite poetic about it that would work, probably, somehow. Anyway, if I was going out, I would think, if I'm going to go out and am I going to show them a slide of this Duchamp work, which is kind of European work that is breaking open the canon of the history of Western art, which is the dominant history of art. I would already be thinking, is that like the right thing for me to be doing? Do I need individuals need. How do I know they're going to need to know, be taught? This is a very, because she says it's a very important. She does say it's considered to be very important, I think, in the clip. Very important, but the way in which it's delivered in the clip, it feels like they need to believe that this is very important to know this. And I'm not convinced I would have the same feeling that it would be very important for them to know it. I would be interested in having a conversation with them about what about art, about what their approach to visual culture would be, about whether they make things, about how it, and then I would think about what I could maybe introduce for them to respond to. I wouldn't introduce Duchamp like that. It's like reinforcing the canon of what's termed the avant-garde, and there's one slight shaking of the head, which is more than just, no, I don't know who this is by. It suggests a kind of, why are you doing this to me?
It's the classic bigotry of low expectations as well. I mean, if they went to a course to study Western 20th century art, I'd show them Duchamp. But going out there and imposing it upon them, it makes them more stupid. They come out knowing.
It's a form of, it equally, it falls into the history of colonization, doesn't it? Culturally, it's like, right, now you need the important stuff. Here's Duchamp.
Yeah, and yet the woman giving that speech would absolutely berate you for suggesting there was anything positive about colonization.
I have to say, I haven't seen the film. I've only seen 47 seconds. I haven't seen what comes before. I haven't seen what comes after. And I'm absolutely convinced that the intention, the little context you gave me of, they are young female, probably young female artists that are going out there to talk to Taliban women. And I can see I can understand there's a sort of logic there. I can understand the ethics of it, but then the content of it starts to, from what I've seen from the clip, starts to undo it. And now I have to go and I have to watch the whole thing now.
If you haven't seen Curtis's Bitter Lake, it's a bit of a leftoid for me, but it's a cracking documentary. It essentially talks about European IQ peaked at around 1880, Sherlock Holmes kind of time. And we enter the information age and people are getting stupider at an exponential rate in the information age. And what Curtis essentially says is it's because the information is hypnotizing us. It's it's like a hypnotic thing.
Very good.
And that's when that little clip comes out. A couple of super chats. Al said, nice one, Al, for that lady. Relax and Two Tribes was all Trevor Horn. Frankie wasted 2 weeks in his studio and come up with very little. Horn lost patience and just did it himself. Yeah, but hang on. Relax and Two Tribes, they were pretty damn good tracks. I'm not sure if you could say it was wasted, but if you're suggesting that Relax were... they didn't. Trevor Horn made that. Are you saying Trevor Horn made those tunes? Because I can believe that. Yeah, he just did it himself. Nice one, Al. I've forgotten the fella's name who was Relax, even though I had dinner with him and remembered a while. But Holly Johnson. Yeah, I can imagine him sitting around, not doing much, playing with them cucks. And
but
also,
he has these moments that Trevor Horn probably couldn't do, which is the out bits that Trevor Horn can't. From my experience with Trevor Horn, he doesn't do out in the way that Holly Johnson does. So even if he felt like he was wasting his time for 2 weeks, there's this bit of probably like gold dust that is one of the signatures of that, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it kind of is. It gives it that longevity. That
I remember
it's a good point, though, isn't it? It's a good
my
point.
mother bought the 12-inch, and it had sperm on the back. And I remember telling my mum, I said, "Mum, that's sperm." And I was sort of like 11, and her answer was bizarre. She went, "I know what it bloody is," which was on the same page. Nice one for that donation. Hello, mate. Don't worry, I'm drunk. Is that bloke next to you Ray Winston's illegitimate son, or has Marcolette turned ginger and converted to Scottish? I think probably a combination of all of them if you're looking at it through the bottom of a glass on the same page.
Pretty good. It's a shame you didn't say, is that Tim Roth you're interviewing? But, you know, it's all right.
At Jerry's nightclub, there's a one sit down and one Armut. And I was having a piss in Armut, and Ray Winston was in the sit down. And he went 1-0. And that was my...
He's an Arsenal supporter as well, isn't he?
He's a gooner, yes. I didn't talk to him about football, though. Jerry's, you don't really talk to people. You just talk to yourself. And I'll have to take it down there one day, actually. It's like after the colony disappeared, it's like the last Soho members club. It's
oh, wow.
Very naughty. Stuart ended up with the landlord's daughter. What? And not from the Wicker Man, but he ended up with the landlord's daughter. We used to do all-nighters there. And I used to drink Guinness in those days. And one day, everyone got chucked out of Jerry's at 2:00. And the daughter, Belinda, she went, "Come here." She took me, what? She took me through the back of the bar. She opened this massive fridge. It was about 1 metre square door. And it was just full of tins of Guinness. And she went, "All that is yours, my lovely." Stuart's still with her, by the way. They don't talk to me anymore because of the crack. Nice one on the same page. If you're enjoying a drink, enjoy it. Don't go crazy, though. Nice one for the donation. Couple more.
Did they have the widgets in them?
No, thank fuck. It was post widget because it kept the CO2 separate. It was trying to make it like draft in a can, wasn't it? But I always thought they were going to explode. I think Brad's referring to Duchamp's urinal and says it seems as important as a banana taped to a wall. Well, Brad, I actually agree with you there, because I also think a banana taped to a wall in the right context is important. So,
well, the banana on the front of Velvet Underground's album is kind of almost taped to a wall.
It's a great album. Great album.
It is. And also, you know, it's the Andy Warhol album. So, you know, and Andy Warhol, Marcel Duchamp, different bits of the 20th century, but Andy Warhol met and they knew each other. Marcel Duchamp was still alive, all of that. It would have.
We've got some Warhol coming up.
There's a kind of like a connection there. So thanks for that. Yeah, banana on the wall. Yeah, good. You see, I would have taped the banana on the wall, you see, but actually what's more interesting is probably the album cover of the banana, because it peeled off, didn't it? The original one, it was a peel off.
Oh, I didn't know.
Peeled it off. Yeah, you peeled it off, and So anyway, I would have probably got it wrong in the aim of going like, well, it's a real banana, isn't it?
Baudrillard said that Nico was a success because she was a woman pretending to be a man, pretending to be a woman, a trans.
Well, are we going to do at any point? That's interesting. You should say that.
Oh, your fucking book and film. All right, let's move through these. We'll do your book, film, and album. All right, we will do.
But we don't have to. I don't mind, but there's something weird going on.
No, I like this. No, there is something weird going on, love. There's always something weird going on around.
There's something weird going on. No coincidences. Back to Dartington.
Good.
Dartington was right.
You're always funny. Dartington was right. On the same page. Chill, brother. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Right, I think that's the Varts that came in. Oh, no. Neil Christie dropped £2. Is art a European concept?
Yeah, really. In terms of history of art, it's a construction that comes through kind of European agenda. Yeah, definitely. But that's art in the terms that generally we understand it, with white boxes called white cubes that are galleries with, or they don't have to be white traditionally, with sculptures and paintings in them, and this thing called art. But the energy, the manifestation of things that might not be useful but might do something else, is across the planet, I would argue strongly. So you've got shamanic rituals. Obviously, shaman is a Siberian term, but we use it, don't we? Shamanic rituals. You've got painting onto caves. In caves, you've got all of that wouldn't have been called art by the people that made it, but would have operated partly in the same way, but probably more extensively in other ways that are more interesting, which is one limitation of art is that it is sort of like caught in this trap of the gallery, and it's caught.
Incredible. Great question, Neil. And we got another question from Illuminatus. Thank you, Neil, for that donation. Thank you, Lumi, for that $5. Was Professor Tim at the Smiths concert at the Mayfair in '86 when Morrissey walked off stage because people were spitting?
No, I was at a New Order concert at the Mayfair in 1986. When they played, they were doing this thing where they wouldn't play an encore and they'd only play 35 minutes, maybe 25, and then they'd go. And we thought it was extortionate, and it was only about $5, But so I didn't really like the Smiths, but my mate liked the Smiths. Queen is dead.
You must like the Smiths now, though.
I do like the Smiths now, yeah, because I'm not locked.
I had to grow into them. I missed them at the time.
I definitely do. And also, there's a Morrissey album that I need to listen to, because I found out that Vinnie Riley of the Durruti Column, who you may have heard of the Durruti Column on Factory Records, and Vinnie Riley does his instrumental guitar, has always been in Factory Records from the word get-go, and he created a lot of one of the late Morrissey albums that I need to listen to.
Okay.
Vinnie Riley. Anyway, sorry everybody. Yeah, sort of cul-de-sac that was. I'll reverse out the cul-de-sac.
Next one's a very odd one, but it will. It will get us somewhere. Right, here we go. Let me find it. So I might. I can't play all of it because I'll get yeeted. But check this out, people. Let me know we've got audio.
Ein Wort des Jahres gibt, dann ist es Freiheit, Freedom. Und wenn es ein Lied dieses Jahres 1989 gibt, dann ist es das von David Hasselhoff, Looking for Freedom. David, why did you want to come exactly here to the Brandenburg Gate?
1 year ago we did Looking for Freedom and it was a dream.
Hat gesagt, also der größte Eindruck hier war es vor einem halben Jahr hier in Berlin gewesen. And now,
thank you very much.
David, Looking for Freedom.
Thank you, I'm ready. Okay. One morning in June, some 20 years ago, I was a rich man's son.
So I'm just stopping it so that there's half a chance I won't get yeeted, because we've got to hear a bit of this fucking ridiculous song. You just have to talk, but I'm going to try and get another 10 seconds out of it.
priceless.
I had everything that money could buy, but freedom I had none. I've been looking for freedom. I've been looking so long.
Wow. Wow. Mate?
So that is, of course, the Hoof in 1989 singing "I've Been Looking for Freedom" on the Brandenburg Gate. Professor
As the
Tim,
wall is kind of coming down, the Berlin Wall is being rived apart.
literally it was. They were chipping away at it around him, yeah.
They were. So in 1990, a year later, I went to, I was in Berlin and I was making a performance in Kreuzberg, which at that time, it was up against the wall. So it was like a bit of a dead end. So nobody wanted to live there. But once the wall started to come down, it was in the center of Berlin. So it was it was in this moment of right at the beginning of it changing. So a year after the Berlin Wall comes down, there's the reunification of Germany celebration.
Okay, hang on. Just on that point. So, because I didn't know that. So the wall come down in 89, but politically they didn't reunify for another year.
Yeah, so they had the official celebration and the kind of formal reunification, as far as I know, it was in 1990. And it was a year later, and I was in this festival that I was making a performance over 3 days long. And
Great.
and a 3-day long performance in which I made a bowl of soup, but it took me 3 days to make it. Right. So it was lentils and potatoes and stuff like that. And I had a big bag of potatoes and a big bag of lentils. And it was in this space that was going to be a plush gallery, but it hadn't been properly built yet. It was in the process of being built. And they said, yeah, you can have that space. So it had no electricity in it, and it had, the floors hadn't been done. And it was all, you know, it was like a bit of a building site without any building equipment in it. So I thought, well, I'll make this bowl of soup, because I knew that what was going on about this transition of the city changing and all the Turkish.
So sorry, Tim, to interrupt, but I studied art for like 8 years, but explain to my scrubs, explain to the viewers, why did you make a bowl of soup that took 3 days on the Berlin Wall?
Okay. So there was a big Turkish community in that area because it was the cheapest end of Berlin until the wall came down, right? And I thought, well, I'm going to make something that in some way connects with the idea of being at the base of things. So what is the most basic? And I knew this was a festival that I was in, and I knew there was like a breakfast every morning that people could go to, and it was like really, you know, quite well provided for. And there was a chef there with a big kind of chef's hat on. And I thought, right, okay, so what I'm going to do is, thinking on the spot, I'm going to make something that's like the opposite of this, because they had like a plush cinema where they were showing art films and stuff like that. I thought, I'm going to do something that's the opposite of this, that in some way kind of tries to connect to what's going on outside, right? Because what was going on inside were riots. There were riots going on outside because people were being moved out of their homes to let big business in the same way that the City of London has expanded, and people in their markets get pushed out further and further away to the outskirts. So Brick Lane becomes something very different to what it was when it was the kind of local communities, you know, kind of living there for many years, generations. Anyway, so similar, right? So I thought, well, what I'll do is I won't just make a bowl of soup and go, there you go, see you, 10 minutes or something. I said, I'll take the idea of making a bowl of soup and I'll stretch it out. So all the lentils went on the floor and the potatoes went on the floor and everything went. So it became this like environment. And I was living in this space for 3 days. Right?
So it wasn't in a bowl, it was in the room.
It was eventually, because I had like one of those camping stoves, a Trangia camping stove, and I had a big metal saucepan.
Yeah.
Right. So slowly I'd pick up the lentils one by one, and I'd pick up the potatoes one by one, and I'd peel them, and it would take a while, and I'd stretch it out. And on day 2, the chef walks in from the festival, and he goes, "Oh, here's some parsley." He gives me a big punch. He said, "You need some parsley. Have you got any seasoning?" I went, "I'm going to season it." He said, "Oh, here's some salt, here's some pepper." And he's saying, "What are you doing?" And I'm telling him what I'm doing while I'm doing it, like in a way I'm telling everybody now. And he says, "Oh yeah, we just did the Pink Floyd gig last week, because the Pink Floyd had played at Berlin as well at the Brandenburg Gates." Yeah. So the wall coming down was still coming down. It was, still bits there in the center of Berlin where you could buy Soviet military watches. You have one of them. You could buy one of the hats that you've got on your head in your thing there, your little avatar thing. That isn't an avatar, sorry. And you could buy them with the hammer and sickle or the star on them and all of that. You could buy all of that.
When I went out to the Ukraine, when I went out to the Ukraine about 15 years ago, all the markets were just ex-Soviet paraphernalia.
Yeah. So you could get these Submariner watches for like a tenner, that virtually every Submariner, you could get one with a tank on it that every military person would just be issued with, so thousands of them. So why am I saying all of this? Because I was put up in a squat in Kreuzberg. I think it was in Kreuzberg. And I was put up in a squat, and there was a lot of trouble going on between the kind of ideological bits that were going on.
Because the East and West had come together.
And the East and West had come together. Now, the thing about Hasselhoff's song there that makes me trigger all of this long-winded shaggy dog story, right, is that he's talking about freedom as he's singing freedom, whatever the words are. I can't remember, but the freedom's in there. Now we've got it and stuff. But the thing is that the East Berliners had never had bananas, right? So they were all coming over and buying bananas. There's a banana connection there, right? They were all coming over and buying bananas. And the first adverts to go up in East Berlin from the West were these Marlboro Men, the Marlboro Men adverts for Marlboro cigarettes. So you got this big cowboy posters, like big, like side of a skyscraper type. Well, big going up. So you're
free now, have a cigarette.
You're free. So Hasselhoff singing that, all I can think of is the Marlboro Men images are going that way, and everybody's in their Trabants, those little cars, the East German cars are going the other way, trying to buy bananas and TVs.
Wow. What a situation.
Weird.
All right. No, really, really odd. Right, here we go.
All right.
We've got another clip. I mean, I know we could do an hour at least per bit, but we have to move on. Right, this one, awesome. We've watched bits of this on my channel countless times, but I selected just this bit. Let me know.
If we are attacked by nuclear weapons, these are the warning sounds you must recognize. First, The attack warning. If an attack is expected, the sirens will sound a rising and falling note like this. Next, the fallout warning. When fallout is expected, you will hear 3 bangs in short succession. They will be sounded by means of maroons like this. Or you may hear 3 gongs like this. Or 3 whistles like this. These all mean that fallout is expected. Warnings of the attack and of fallout will also be broadcast. When the immediate danger of air attack or fallout has passed, the siren will sound a steady note like this.
Marvelous.
There you go. From, I think, 1976, Protect, Survive, the video. You must also remember the leaflets that came through our houses with the doors up against the wall with suitcases full of all your clothes. Get in there. They actually say put things like jam, peanut butter, and other things. I nearly showed threads, but we've smashed that on this channel. Tim, the Protect and Survive.
Yeah, I was talking about this with people, but I wouldn't have been alone. There'll have been many people who would have remembered this warning and versions of this warning. Old enough to remember who would have been talking about it a few weeks ago, and maybe every now and again now. So it's like, you know, I can't lie. I did think at one moment it was going to go up in the sky or up in the, you know, a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what's going to happen now, but it's still kind of around at the moment. But just to be reminded of it in the last few weeks has been very weird, because I had actually kind of like thought wrongly without expressing it. I'd thought, yeah, that was then, right? But this is like, we've moved beyond that. Can you remember those warnings? You know, you take your door off the wall and you put a lean-to, and then you kind of, you've got 3 minutes and you paint your windows white so it reflects the light. You've got 3 minutes, mind. It's all
nuclear bomb, paint your windows white.
You know, 3 minutes. And then I remember that Stuart Brisley had made a sound work, like a spoken word sound work, really, shorthand, where he's got a bit where he's reading from the leaflet, I think, and he's saying the radio will be your only communication with the outside world. You know, he's repeating that. And I remembered that from the 80s, because then it was being, you know, in a sense, it could be turned into something that you could kind of like listen to in terms of culture or work with things. But in 76, I mean, I was only 10, and it was like constantly this idea that it could all go off. And so there you are. I mean, I don't know really what else I can add to it. I mean, it's just so naive, isn't it? And I mean, they knew. The thing is they knew. It was all a very silly idea of a warning that it's just not feasible, right? It's unfeasible, and they knew, because we were watching, you know, the Hiroshima kind of footage and all of that, and then Nagasaki. I don't know whether there was footage from Nagasaki, but certainly Hiroshima, and you know, you kind of knew there was no chance of 3 minutes to do any of that in. So it was patronizing, at the same time? I mean, nobody took it seriously, but everybody was serious about the possibility of zero existence.
But the thing with all of that stuff, I mean, like you said, it was ubiquitous. It was in pop music, OMD, the Enola Gay song, Nana's 99 Red Balloons,
Mutually Assured Destruction, Mad.
All that. Now, yeah, the weird thing about the Cold War and that kind of thing, that was the Cold War. That video was, that's how it manifested itself.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no bombing, it's this kind of weird propaganda. It's not propaganda as such, but that's the weaponry. You put me on to Paul Virilio. Do you remember War and Cinema?
War and Cinema, yeah.
Amazing bit in there when they say for the first time a Second World War bomber was loaded with more filming equipment than bombs.
That's right, yeah.
And it's such a, you know, it blew my mind.
Enola Gay.
Yeah, there you go.
OMD song.
I said it. I just said that.
Oh, you did. Sorry.
Oh. But yeah, that's the weaponry of the Cold War. It and like that's really interesting. You said they knew. Even threads, you know, what happened in Sheffield if a bomb was to go off. You know, that is actually the weaponry. But weirdly, your own people are bombing you with that.
Yeah.
You know, the Soviets didn't make Protect and Survive. That was British government. They made that for us to shit ourselves. I grew up being attacked by these weapons.
Yes. And
like you say, I to be honest with you, I don't think we're anywhere near that at the moment. But we're
not. No. You're
but
right.
it's a bit like the Bisto thing, you know, there's a little bit of it coming along and you're sort of like, oh, I remember. Because I bet you 11-year-olds are terrified, like I was.
It's basically a bit of Cold War slight return.
There you go, yeah.
It's a little bit of that. And it's the wah-wah pedal at the beginning of Voodoo Child's slight return. And it's like, oh, right, yeah, that's kind of really cool, isn't it? Well, not the opposite, obviously. You know, it's a bit of that going on. It's a bit of like the nostalgia of the Cold War, which is not comfortable.
I've been writing a novel for 5 years. It's a bit of a joke amongst the scrubs because about 3 years ago I said it'll be finished next month and it still ain't finished. But there's a whole chapter in it about the AIDS thing in the 80s. So when AIDS happened, I was terrified because I was just going through puberty and I was finally going to get to fuck someone. You know, I've been looking at pictures and I was finally going to get some flesh. And my old man said to me, it's your generation I feel sorry for. And I was like, tell me about it. And he said, but don't worry about it. He said this. He didn't say it was a myth. He wasn't a Barthian. But he said, I went through all this with VD. We had this with VD. And so in my novel, I do, and the research is there, but I do the VD, the Cold War, AIDS, and I started all that writing before what's going off in the Ukraine. So editing that at the moment is it's kind of, there's a new challenge there because, like you say, it's nostalgia for me writing about it, but then there's like this new nostalgia. You know, when I put that on, I saw you grin because it's Cold War nostalgia.
It's also how it linked not only with your David Hasselhoff, your choice, but I didn't know I was going to look at these things. But the fact that I'd responded to David Hasselhoff with a year after the Cold War, the big celebration, but it was a bit more edgy than that, as I tried to describe. Yeah. And then we go to the warning, which is it's very much kind of it's to do with now in a way.
Yeah.
Even though it's not going to happen, or at least, well, I can't say that, but it's highly unlikely that it's going to happen, or at least for a while. It is still very much now because everybody's remembering it.
But it's interesting because the Cold War is happening again. The mainstream media.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's
happening.
And I was thinking, I used to do this talk about my work for a while where I'd go, this is the work that I made in the Cold War. And this is the work that I made after the, you know, a little bit after the Berlin Wall had come down, not immediately, after the Cold War. And they're very different. But at the time, I didn't quite know they would be, but here we go. And now it's like, oh, hang on a minute, what did I make in the Cold War again?
Yeah.
Wheel it out. Hey, Fortress Europe. Here we go.
Yeah.
Mattress Unit Europe, you called it once, that work. Mattress Europe. It was so funny. Oh no, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. It was somebody else in the community.
No, yeah, I don't remember match. I liked that whole thing, although I became really anti-art. This makes me cringe, right? I become anti-government funding. I become very anti-art as a vocation. And I was in Tim's house. He let me and Mumford stay there for a while, but he was there for a couple of days first. And he come in and he was all pissed off, Tim was. And I was like, you don't look too happy. And he said, I just found out that I didn't get funding for this project. And shitty little 19-year-old me went, good, you shouldn't. And you didn't look happy. And I remember thinking, I thought, no, he shouldn't get money. The funniest thing that happened in your house, you fucked off for a couple of weeks and said to me and Mumford, you can stay in my house while I'm away. Yeah. And me and Paul were like, fucking brilliant. We done loads of acid. We done loads of mushrooms. We were in there one morning. I was upstairs. There was an upstairs toilet. Mumford's in the kitchen. Now listen to this, people. I thought, I know, rather than just go to have a poo, I'll do a poo in my hand. Now I did put toilet paper on my hand first. And I thought I'll go downstairs and open the kitchen door and say to Paul, do you want breakfast? Do you want to share breakfast? And just show him this hot turd. Now it's hard. The stairs went down to the front door, and then there was like the kitchen window. And I'm walking down with a real poo in my hand, and a bloke's head pops in the window, and he goes, "Is Tim there?" And I go, well, I say shit, which is obviously funny, and I put it behind my back. Mumford's there looking at me with a poo behind my back, not knowing why I've got a poo on me. And one of your mates is like, oh, we don't know whether he's important to your life or whatever. We're just a couple of students. And I'm like, I don't know when he's coming back. He went, who are you? And Paul's just going, why don't you open the door, Chris? And I can't because I've got a poo in my hand.
And then when I came back, of course, you didn't tell me that. I mean, I think you told me about a year ago or something like that. And I was like, when I came back, the first person out of the two of you to meet me was Paul Mumford. And he went, Tim, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, oh, my God, no. He said, I've broken your speakers.
Oh, yeah, you fucked your stereo, didn't you?
Right, so I had these little Boston acoustic speakers that I had with me, NAD, amp and thing, right? And he said, I've broken your speakers. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. He said, well, I've got you these ones. He gave me these two 2B12s.
Oh,
two 2B12s that were like, you know, from the band. Maybe they weren't his. I don't know. But anyway, I don't know. He gave me these and he went, they might be all right for you. And I'm thinking, well, let's have a listen. And he plugged them in and they were like way better than the Boston acoustics. So it's like, yeah, it's fine. That's good.
We went to the Weirdos Ball, which was just a big magic mushroom party. And a girl in the year below us, I can't remember her name, she came home to your house with us. And me and Mumford got in your bed. She got in the other bed. And she even come in and said, if one of you wants to join me. And we were just tripping. We were like, no. And then we put Bitches Brew on at full blast. Oh, rocks. Fiver. Nice one, mate. Finally got round to looking at Come and See. Tim, have you seen the war movie Come and See?
I have, yeah. It's by Klimov. You can get it. You can watch it for free on YouTube.
Hard watching.
Incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. Nice one, Art Clorot.
Arklow rocks. He's a lovely bloke. He said, saw it last week. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago to people. Mesmerizing war film. I think Steven Spielberg might have aped some of it for Schindler's List.
I think he took some of it, and also at around about. There's also Ivan's Childhood by Tarkovsky, which is a war film. Is really if you like, come and see, watch that. And then recently I saw
you made us watch Ivan's Childhood at college.
No, I made you watch. No, I should have done.
No, you did. You did.
Did I?
Yep.
Oh well, then the next year I made watch the whole of Andrei Rublev, which is like how long? Or and they were like, no, and they had to write an essay about it.
Do you remember when you had a film club and you screened Terminator 2 and me and Mumford come in on acid, sneaked in. He had that needle at his neck and we sneaked out again. Thank you very much, Arklow, and thank you very much for giving that film a watch, because I recommended it for a reason. I thought it was probably the best storytelling in a war film that I've seen. So nice one.
Have you seen The Bombardment?
No.
It's a new. It's new, so you get it on. You get it on your Netflix, that kind of thing, and it's worth watching if you're in a come and see kind of mode, that kind of thing. It's worth watching. It's Danish. It's Danish, but it's dubbed, but it's really well dubbed. Things are getting quite good on the dubbing front.
You're going to have to hold the stream while I have a piss.
So, The Bombardment. Oh, I can't put the spoilers on it, can I really? Yeah. The idea was that I was going to do, because I wanted it in on this album and book and film. So I was thinking I'll put the comments on so I can see them. So I was thinking, we'd start with them if I could get away with it, and then we'd do these Secret Santa cultural artifacts that Chris was going to pick without telling me. So he didn't tell me what these were going to be, but I think he let you know that's how he was going to do it. So I was pretty worried about what he was going to throw at me, but it's kind of worked out all right. Here he is.
There's a reason I'm saving the book.
Zipping his sarong up.
Crammer, if you don't mind. And I certainly do clamor. Right, we've only got pictures left. I'm going to drop a couple out.
Go on then.
There's not much to say to this one. No, I'm going to drop that one out, actually. We're going to have a look at 3 pictures. Then I think we might have a surprise. And if we get the surprise, we'll do the movie, book, and album, okay?
All right, then. I thought the surprise was Video Killed the Radio Star. I thought that was a surprise. All right, then.
Right, so I had a couple of funnies, but it feels like that'll be a bit of a joke. But so we're going to have a look at a picture. I want you to tell me what you make of this image.
Okie dokie.
And the chat, of course. Oh, it's flicking. It's the iconic picture of Pamela Anderson wrapped in the Stars and Stripes. I'll leave it on the screen.
It's got that kind of mermaid sort of reference, hasn't it? It's got a kind of mermaid thing. All she needs is sort of the flipper at the end, and it'd be there. Yeah, I mean, it's your classic pre-cosmetic surgery gig, isn't it? Really, or if it isn't cosmetic surgery, it's the blueprint for the cosmetic surgery. So,
or digital surgery, perhaps.
Well, yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So you've got your Photoshop, well, not your Photoshop, but whatever it is, you've got your.
Would have been then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, and it fits within the history of Western art canon there. But obviously, Duchamp was trying to break open that, and she's wrapped in the Stars and Stripes. There isn't a towel, I don't think.
No, it's actually a flag. I looked into
It's
it.
the flag, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you can use a flag as a as a piece of clothing, obviously. It's like we had mods with Union Jacks, the Who with Union Jacks,
Great call. Great call.
and then Eric Blair. That was George Orwell. Then Tony Blair, you know, with his Brit art, Brit pop thing with the Union Jacks and the
Now that, listen, I was talking to Bally G, that's Mumford's name around these parts, and I said to him a couple of days ago, I said, I've got this thing with Breno. I said, any ideas? And he said Britpop. And I said, why? And he said, well, because that was kind of the thing when we were at Dartington, but we didn't do it. So that, but now I could sing you every Blur song. I could sing you every Oasis song. I know my Britpop, you know, I got right into it again later. I only discovered Nirvana last year. Because at college, I was listening to Polish jazz. I was listening to Eric Dolphy, Miles Davis. I didn't want to listen to Blur. Fuck, I had dreadlocks. Come on. Fucking Blur.
Fine. That's good, though.
It's a weird angle, though, isn't it? But that's what he said. But that's a really interesting thing because the mods with the... we've got a bloke who comes in here called Lambretta Daz, and his avatar is that mod. I don't know what it's called. It's got a name, hasn't it? It's not just a target. It's... what's it called on the Spitfire wings? And that Craig is a great call because then Jerry Halliwell tried to pull it off.
Right. Yeah, and they get folded into the Brit art thing, don't they?
Yeah,
Spice Girls, part of the Union Jack thing. Didn't we have the Olympics around about that time? Did we? I don't know. No. But that was sort of the end of it, wasn't it? When we had the Olympics, it did a big thing about the Britpop when they opened the Olympics. It was very much that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we are becoming very symbolically aware. But when you talk about flags being folded in, I'm thinking of Dead Soldiers coming back. And then I look at Pam Anderson there. And
Pamela Anderson wrapped. Yeah, Pamela Anderson wrapped in the flag. Yes.
And she's a female. She's a female. She produces life.
Yeah.
Quite okay. All right. Another picture. All right. I can do it a little bit quicker way.
That's good. Look, there's a toes. Look. All right. See you.
Well, someone said I bet her feet stink, and that's an interesting move because. And I said we've got some Warhol coming. So can you see that on the left there? You've got Andy Warhol's Diamond Dust shoes from 1980, and on the right, Van Gogh's Peasant shoes. I'm guessing 1890, something like that.
Something like that, yeah, something like that. So the Warhol is when he's definitely he knows that he can. The Warhol one, he can go to that because it's referencing the Campbell's Tin of Soup that he does, and the Marilyn Monroe, these sort of multiple repeats of the same image. And we would pretty much all know the Marilyn Monroe one with the color scheme that's similar to this, and the Campbell's soup tins that are repeated. And I guess that the headline on that is that what he's doing is he's taking the imagery of consumerism and the star culture before celebrity culture that we know it now, but the star culture, which is the same thing really, and he's making it into a multiple, and he's saying, look, it's very accessible, this, but he's firing it back. He's sort of firing it back out. So it's still an advert, but it's doing something else because it's Andy Warhol that's doing it. So in here, because this is quite late, you said 1980.
Yeah, I think
he's already super well known, a brand, if you like, right? Because he's constructed that as his artwork is the idea of a brand. And there you've got it. He can do anything with those colors. And then he can print off any, or have print off. He doesn't print it off. Have print off, or didn't. He's gone now. But so that's that. But with Van Gogh, this Van Gogh, it's like it's one pair of shoes or boots. It's not It's not a whole stash of them, even though we're not looking at a stash of shoes on the left or on the right. They're two paintings. Well, one's a print and one's a painting. But let's say we were. He's representing a peasant worker's boots, and it looks like they've been working in the fields, or they've taken them off to work in the fields, you know, and they're not new. They are, you know, well worn, probably been mended, probably still broken, but have been mended in the past. So you've got one that is looking at, you know, he's kind of working with the idea of a kind of affluence and abundance on the left. Is it on the left for everybody? It is for me, yeah, on the left. Affluence and abundance. So an idea of affluence. I'm not saying that you have to be affluent to have a pair of high heel shoes, but you know, and on the right, that it's not affluent, it's not abundant. It's like, these are your boots. But Dad, I'm only 6. They don't fit. Yeah, but you'll grow into them, and they're your boots, by the way. Unless I die, you can have my. Oh no, your elder sister can have my boots when I die. So it's a bit like that, and I'm making a crap joke about it, but it's they're very different. They're at either end of the system. I wouldn't say a class end. You could go that. You could look at it that way easily, but
I think you said it in other words, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. So you could. You can possibly get more out of it by talking of it in other words rather than just going straight for the class. It's a class difference. Well,
yeah, I don't think that's the relevant thing. It can be, but I think you've got two pieces of art that are separated by roughly 100 years, a little bit less, but we can say the 20th century. I'm thinking of the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction.
Oh, yeah,
I'm thinking. I tell you what, I've been talking to Will Self a lot lately. He put his mate on to me to edit my novel, and now I'll deal with that in a minute. Nice one on the same page. We've got the Polish philosopher, I can't remember his name, Zabinski, maybe, the first person, he said that the map is not the territory. We've got Jorge Borges, who wrote that one paragraph story where they made the map as big as the territory. As the empire declined, the map declined. When people came back there, in the future, they couldn't tell the difference between the map and the territory. Lewis Carroll wrote about it. Baudrillard uses it in the first page of Simulations, the Borges story. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and this is why I kind of put this up. There's no original with the Diamond Dust shoes with Warhol's one. There's only copies. So you've got the sort of, the sort of 1980, sort of like the sort of postmodern explosion. I've always been absolutely fascinated by the whole map and the territory thing, the way it's gone through philosophy, the way it's gone through literature, blah, blah, and various other areas, and postmodernism and post-structuralism. But talking to Will Self the other week, he was talking about screens based on his new novel, Telephone. He's done 3 novels, Umbrella, Shark, and Telephone, and they're all based around war. Umbrella's First World War, Shark is Second World War, and the third one, I think, is... I haven't read the third one, so I'm not actually going to say what war it's about because I'll be lying. But he said something very interesting with the internet and with screens. Because now, with screens, the map is the territory. And that is an epistemological, you could say break, you could say catastrophe. Because for 200 years of literature, the map is not the territory. It has withstood technology. It has withstood art. Even Warhol's copies without originals, well, that's still not the territory. There's still a bit of, a box, what do you call it, a frame of wood with a silk on it. But the internet, Well, I'm afraid the map is the territory now, because I'm looking at the map now.
Yeah.
And it is. That is I'm talking to you. I've got people in the chat. They're talking to both of us. We're looking at pictures.
Yeah.
And that is that's amazing to me. Now, I'm going to move on from this because it links in with the last picture before we get to the maybe surprise and then your favorites.
Okay.
It's key that I said there's a roughly 100-year distinction between those two pieces of work.
Yeah.
And this is the final cultural artifact. It's actually a book.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah,
Hey,
I thought you'd like that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
I will let you take over. Here's something interesting, people. My big third-year art project, I've told many of you about it many times, was called Discipline and Punish. It was a very violent, it involved beating people up, physically hitting people with lumps of wood with a bit of pipe lagging on it. When Tim done my critique of it afterwards, he said that on his undergraduate, he'd done a piece of work called Discipline and Punish. And what Foucault does in this book, now what you got to understand, Tim, in this kind of scene, the Frankfurt School, your Foucaults, your Derridas, they ate them all. But I refuse to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that's a ridiculous thing to do. What Foucault does in this book is says, how did discipline and punishment, or we can just say punishment, how did it go from a spectacle where the whole village, the whole town came to watch it on the gallows, where a man had his arms and legs pulled off by horses, where his injuries were cauterized so he couldn't bleed to death, so they could torture him some more? That was a public spectacle. And within the space of 100 years, we now do it in these weird buildings out of the way where you're not even allowed in and you can't take photos and it's out of sight. And that's in the space of 100 years. So there's a relationship there between the Van Gogh shoes as well. So Tim, Foucault's Discipline and Punish, what do you want to say?
Yeah, so he also so the painting on the front of that edition there is a Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, yeah.
The Van Gogh, yeah. And somebody once said, "Is that you in that painting?" When I was younger, and I was like, I hope not, because it's a bit of a Van Gogh. I mean, it's a sort of reference to himself, so that's another thing. But anyway, that's the humorous bit. But Foucault is also saying, right, let's look at the way in which many people might react to the sound of police, or knowing that they've got to see that they're being surveyed in some way. And that in that book, he's also trying to say, so we've gone from the scaffold with this public execution as a big event. We've gone and we've now got this situation where we've all ingested, we all have the sense that we've committed the crime, even if we haven't committed the crime. So the punishment is already, we carry the punishment with us already. So it's this sense of being discipline and punishment being external. They have to absolutely know, or I mean, I'm not saying that people weren't disciplined without having done anything, and quite the reverse. But there's this sense of there being a distance to it, and then it's actually part of our world all the time. Even if you've never crossed the line of the law, you still got it inside in a way that perhaps 150, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 60 years ago, you wouldn't have that. But maybe it would get displaced, that feeling, into other things to do with organized religion, etc., whatever. So it's gone from being, and then the other bit, the last bit, is that it goes from the scaffold, where you're looking at the object or the prisoner on the front of the painting. You're looking at the prisoner in that way, focused on them. that the prison system, the architecture of prisons has changed in such a way whereby you can have one jailer in a panopticon, which is a sort of circular kind of prison, set of cells going around the edges. You can have one warden, if you like, jailer, with lighting in a particular way, so you can see into every cell by being able to just turn your head. Now
and you can stack them. You can stack them up. He can walk upstairs.
Yeah.
So he can be looking.
There's an economy of means of control and power. And then why is this classroom laid out in a particular way? I mean, they're different now, but for a long time they were laid out with the teacher at the front as the authority figure, and then these rows. You know, we remember that. You know, the 1976, the warning.
They still are like that. You get.
They are, yeah. They move in and out. They move in and out of the panopticon and the class,
depending who's watching, ironically. But yeah, so Foucault, I think Jeremy Bentham, a liberal, invented the panopticon, but he never built one. There's a couple in Australia that they actually threw up. But what Foucault says is he moves on to panopticism, and he says that's the area we inhabit. We may be being looked at, so we survey ourselves.
We had central panopticons in our prisons in Pentonville, up the road from the Slade, from Jeremy Bentham's University College there in London. Up the road, Pentonville has got a panoptic aspect to it. I think strange ways
from the original design, or is it something they've added on?
No, Victorian. Yeah,
wow.
I'm pretty certain. I'll look it up though. If I'm wrong, I'll send you a message and say,
incredible that, I mean, Jeremy Bentham was kind of a nice guy, and I think he was trying to do something that was kind of all right, but it's
he was, I get that sense as well. And yet he was moving it into the next chapter, wasn't he? And the thing about the screen with Will Self, I think maybe the screen is that Virilio links back to Virilio, because he wrote a piece, probably has been translated now into English, but at the time it was about the desert screen. He wrote it during the first Iraq War, and it was about the desert, that desert war being a screen, the desert being a screen, because the mode of warfare was very much about a kind of screen bait, a shift to the screen.
But Baudrillard said it nowhere near as good as Virilio would have done, but Baudrillard just called it. He said he said it didn't happen. The Gulf War didn't happen, which obviously it happened, but it's the same thing. It was a largely a cinema experience for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a spectacle. It's a spectacle, and the camera's on the end of the missile. Remember, we can watch them now. We're on the end of the missile. So who's the war artist? Anybody? Yeah. Anybody. You don't have to be there, paint a picture of it. You're on the end of the camera anyway, and it's going to blow up.
And again, I understand. Well, actually, right, I'm no military technology expert. They don't need that camera on that. That's more Cold War propaganda. That's more, watch this. Because no way is someone steering that fucking bomb. I had a jet pilot on this channel. He said that's all sorted. That's to show you. That's to make sure you know where we're out there. It's happening.
Yeah. So we've moved from.
Hang on. Sorry. Look at the both pair of us. The more of that kind of stuff they show you, the further away you move from the real conditions of war.
Yeah. So you've got your 1976 public information film, The Warning.
Yeah, protect and survive.
No camera on the end of the missile there, but then here we are. It's actually. Can we not have the camera on the end of the bombs that are going to complete the task? Can we not watch it as it just? Can we not get it the apocalypse down to that?
Well, I tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of a bomb that's got a built-in. What do they call those things that they put a load of stuff in and they bury for future generations to find?
Yeah, time capsule.
So the nuke has got a camera and a time capsule. So it films the landing of the bomb. The digital one of these things then goes into the time capsule, is shot 30 meters into the ground, so that in a zillion years people can see how we destroyed everything.
Or
Would not be surprised. Would not be surprised.
Like
right,
it.
so we're going to get to your favourites.
My God.
We might have a surprise. I've got to do a little bit of fiddling about. If we don't have a surprise, it's no biggie. Your favourites will still be, I'm sure, very entertaining.
All right then.
Let me just give me a couple of seconds. I should be able to tell you in a minute. Listen, while I'm waiting for the potential of the surprise,
all right.
Thank everyone for hanging around. We're still going to do Tim's favourite book, favourite film, favourite movie. We know they're not necessarily favourites because
I can't do a number one forever. It's where it's at kind of at the moment for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we've done that last week.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the surprise is going to come off. So what I'm going to do, I think, what I just want to say, thanks everyone. I hope Abstract Steve, the panopticon, it's the prison with the sort of thing in the middle where the guard can see everyone on the exterior. Read Foucault's Discipline and Punish. It opens with a diary that was kept of a bloke witnessing someone who was tortured on the scaffold, and his arms, well, they tried to rip his arms off with horses, but they couldn't. The horses couldn't, so they had to cut into him to pull his arms and then legs, and then you can go to, what is it, Tim? Is it Bataille's Images of Eros, where it's got the Chinese 100 pieces?
Do all of that, yeah.
And what's he say? What does Bataille say? He says it's that character where he's had his tits cut off. You can see his ribs. He's got no legs. There's a sore in his thigh. And Bataille says his expression, you cannot say whether it's agony or ecstasy. Oh, it's a shocking book. Okay, right. So the surprise still might happen, but because we've done 2.5 hours.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
So Howard, nice one, our pal. Thank you, mate. Always appreciate it when people let me know they're enjoying things. And I want to thank everyone who's donated as well, because that's always encouraging. Where do you want to start? Book, album, movie?
Let's start with the book.
Okay, hang on. No, Mira. Okay. Wandering
by Herman Hesse. Look, that's a bit like a Dartington thing, walking out the wall, going up.
I obviously know Hesse.
Look, he's come out of the prison that we were talking about. He's walking out the wall. So Herman Hesse, he wrote Siddhartha, and he wrote the Glass-Bead Game and Steppenwolf and those others. And he he was born in Germany, yes, and he was in the First World War, and then in 1919, after the First World War,
but
he's not happy, so he goes for a walk. He leaves Germany. I think it's Germany. It's Austria.
It's quite a trope in German literature to go for a walk, actually, or Western European.
Definitely. And this is his kind of. He goes for a walk. He walks to Switzerland. He walks over the border into Switzerland, and that's where he sets up his home, and that's it. That's basically where he ends up. And this is like a little journal of his of things that he sees on the way on his walk. He doesn't seem to be that worried about money. He hasn't got. I don't think he's got much money. He's very kind of ascetic. He's pared it down to what's in his bag, but he talks about things that he eats each day and what he sees. It's all fairly chilled out. He's on a bit of a journey to get away from certain atmosphere in the past and try and enjoy this kind of sense of connecting to this very Dartington, actually. It's brilliant. And so the idea of the wanderer without knowing quite where he's going to go.
Was that written before or after Siddhartha? Because Siddhartha,
it's written just before Siddhartha, so it's like it's slightly less well known than all the other ones.
because Siddhartha's the story of the man wandering. Incredible.
I'm pretty certain this sets him up to write Siddhartha next, which is the story of the Buddha, the Buddha's journey, but it's kind of fictional the way he presents it. And so and it's got like a few of his sketches in it, or well, they would have been watercolors, I think. You know, why
that book? What does that book give you?
So for me, it hasn't got any. It's not like Come and See, the war movie. It's not Cold War. It's not the Cold War. It's lots of things that I would have gone to previously. It's much more kind of. It's very gentle, but it has a kind of. It's gentle in the sense that he wouldn't have made it if he hadn't have had this bad experience of the First World War. If he was. He wouldn't have made it that. So it's very much about trying to come to terms, I think, come to terms with a lot of the rubbish that we have to deal with. And I think for him, it's about how he can calm himself, really, how he can find a way of calming himself. So it's kind of interesting for me that the next book that he writes, certainly after this book, is Siddhartha. So it's a kind of, it's not a kind of full buy-in to any Eastern promise, right? It's not a kind of, I'm going to take Eastern kind of cultures or ways of thinking and I'm going to map them on. But it is in that, it's very much in that zone, but from his own perspective. It's not about taking Duchamp to the Taliban, actually. It's about, or Taliban women. It's about it's already here in our own sensibilities to find our own vocabulary to feel, all those Dartington things like centered and kind of, because but it's solitary as well. I like the solitariness of it, the introvert nature of it. It's good.
There was certainly a period of your artistic practice that was about walking. I mean, I say that because I don't know whether you still do it, but I knew for a while it was about you took people on walks, didn't you? So
take people on walks. So you came on one of the walks, and then I did some very long ones that were solitary ones where I'd communicate while I was on these journeys. And I hadn't read that. So when I read that, I was like, right, okay, that's kind of like I'd already sort of been doing bits of this. It not competing with his writing. I mean, in that mindset.
Yeah. Do you know about psychogeography?
Yeah. I mean, I've had to resist being called a psychogeographer for many years.
My editor is Nick Papadimitriou, who wrote Scarp, which is considered like one of the seminal texts of psychogeography, and he fucking hates it. He fucking hates it.
Yeah. So. It's a term, psychogeography. Why don't you want
it? Why don't you want it? Because I know why he doesn't. It's an
old one. It comes out of this late 60s French culture, the Situationist International, and firstly, it's got this thing in it called the derive, which is this aimless walk, and I'm not convinced that an aimless walk is that interesting for me. I'm more of a have an idea of going for a walk. You might not know exactly where the end point is, but there always being some sort of map or some sort of structure to the language of the environment, the built environment, your position in it, your baggage that you bring with it, the other people that you talk to. So the idea of having a full kind of break with that, and you can go for this aimless walk and you drift through the city, is like, okay, maybe do it once and then discover that it's a kind of unattainable type of thing. And it's different because he knew he was moving house when he walked with his bag. He's going on a journey to work out really where he's going to end up.
I think you said something there that was important, because weirdly, I know the word derive because Kudro Eshan, you must know him from the ICA. He used to run the ICA. He wrote a review in Face magazine for my first novel, and he described it as an endless derive in Dolesville. But I'm not so sure you can have an aimless walk. And
No, I don't think
you alluded to it there, because someone in the chat a few months ago, I was talking about marketing, and they said, I'm not affected by adverts. And it's like, it's next to impossible not to be affected by something in your world, because it's part of the text of your existence. Of course you are, and so an aimless walk, I mean, I suppose there's sort of a Baudelairean idea of the aimless walk, but even that, you're still meeting prostitutes and you're still going to opium dens, and there's meaning.
And also, it's the poet with Baudelaire. It's very much the poet walking around with a notebook, and is standing there. Is standing, going like, observe the observation of it. So there's a real kind of sense with Baudelaire that there's loads of structure in there. I mean, there's loads of structure. He's not getting lost. He's only going out and not knowing where he's going to what he's going to come across. That's all it is. There's going to be things that he comes across that he pulls out, that he then puts together as a poem, if you like. So that's the flaneur, and he's also a bit
you beat me to it. I was going to say, because you've got the flaneur, you've got the one I can't remember the one before, but psychogeography seems somehow more contrived. It seems it's a bit like, it just seems like a bit of an unnecessary mouthful for something that's been going on for a while.
Yeah, and also, it's about a bunch of French kind of poets coming out of the pub drunk and getting a bit lost, really. But they're not really lost; they're just drunk.
It's like the picaresque, right? The picaresque. I was looking for names for my novel, and I was looking at picaresque Patong, and I kind of knew what picaresque meant, but I wanted to get the proper etymology and all this, because you don't want to print something and get it a bit wrong. And it described the picaresque novel as a novel. It's just a novel. Why these things get. Griselda Pollock, you must know Griselda. You must have stumbled into Griselda. She gave this great lecture once where she said to me, well, not just to me, but no one. I like to think no one else was paying as much attention, because I was like that at that age. She was talking about Impressionism and then Post-Impressionism, and she said she described Post-Impressionism. She said it's just another lumpen category to support art markets. Where does Impressionism end and Post-Impressionism start? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like Britpop, Brit art. Where does it end? Yeah. What comes next? What's the line? I would go with that. Yeah.
It serves advertisers, marketeers, it serves corporations, and pretty much no one else. So perhaps that's what kind of does, certainly my editor, and perhaps you, with the psychogeography thing. It just feels a bit like, where was the other one? Is it Martin Amos or Ian
Sinclair?
There you go. He's part of that Will Self, Ian Sinclair.
Yeah, Ian Sinclair, Peter Ackroyd.
Right.
Martin Amos, London Fields. Martin Amos is in and out of that. And then there's Will Self, obviously.
And then there's, what's it called? Robinson in Space.
Yes, Keeler, Patrick Keeler.
Right, I didn't know his name. And then did he do London as well?
Yeah, Patrick Keeler. Yeah,
brilliant. So that's quite a weird thing. You could, there's like a canon from Baudelaire.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
yeah, amazing.
So you go Baudelaire, Walter Benjamin writes about the flaneur, so you've got it goes into theory and the.
Have you read Hashish in Marseille by Baudelaire? He eats a lot of hashish and just walks around Marseille tripping. It's beautiful. And he writes a beautiful essay called The Storyteller. And
that's fantastic. And there's also Edgar Allan Poe, the one with the walk.
I don't know Edgar Allan Poe.
The Crowd. By The Crowd's a short story, if you like, by Edgar Allan Poe. Really have a look at that. If you want to build the canon, there's a canon there. It's there. There it is, The Crowd by Edgar Allan Poe. It's really good. I'll
put it next to The Bombardment.
God, yeah, The Bombardment's a weird one. Yeah.
What's that Edgar Allan Poe one? The Crowd.
The Crowd, yeah, The Crowd.
Sounds amazing. All right, good stuff. Okay, so that's incredible. Right. So that was your book.
Yeah, that's good. You can read it. It's really easy to read. It's like a day or something. 2 days maybe. I did it on the bus to work.
Okay, 1 second, Tim. Grim, thanks for that 50 knock, mate. Much appreciated. Ludwig says, been a decent chat. Enthusiastic teachers are the best. Ludwig, he absolutely changed my life. I said at the beginning of the chat, I don't know if you were here then, but honestly, absolutely changed my life. I like who I am today, and I probably wouldn't have done without Tim's influence.
Or the influence of the gin in the lighthouse, but we talked about that last time.
I told them that many times.
It was good story.
I didn't do reality anything. Story. Yeah. I drunk the gin. You set it up. Right.
We'll do the album. We'll do the album. Okay, so I haven't got an image of it. Sorry. It's The Marble Index by Nico. See?
Oh my God, proper left field. Let me get a picture. I don't know it.
The Marble Index by Nico, and it's got a face on the front which relates to what you were proposing.
Nico, you mean?
No, the Marble Index.
Hang on. Is it Nico singing, and it's called
Nico, it's a solo album, and the album is called The Marble Index.
All right, I think I'll play a little bit. Have you got anything? Have you got a preference? I'll play a little bit.
You have to play a little bit of Frozen Warnings, given that we've had the warnings.
Right, okay, hang on. I'll try. It'll only be about 10 seconds, so it won't make much sense. We'll get a sense of it. Oh, and there's a John Cale cover of it as well. Wow. Right, hang on. Give me a couple of seconds. Right, so this is Nico from the Marble Index, Frozen Warnings. We might get yeeted. I'll be back in 4 minutes if it happens. It's a real cuntish thing they do. Oh, hang on a minute. And I just want to say before I play this, I said to Tim earlier that the French kind of pop philosopher Baudrillard, he's not up there with the big boys, but he's very entertaining. I recommend Cool Memories. It's a great book, beautiful book. But he said that Nico's kind of skill or what would it be? What made her exciting was that she was a real woman pretending to be a trans woman, which is an odd angle. Let's hear a little bit of this.
Freier over the cloudy borderline. Frozen warnings close to mine. Close to the frozen borderline. Frozen warnings close to mine. Close to the frozen borderline.
Yeah, I'll be checking that out later. Brilliant. Immediately attract.
So it's her and a harmonium, basically. That's it. And
that's the album.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And I think maybe John Cale plays a bit of violin on it. Maybe, I think so. I think John Cale might have produced it as well. So she did that album, the Banana album, or whatever you want to call it, the Andy Warhol album with Velvet Underground, and then she leaves Velvet Underground, and that album, that Velvet Underground record, comes out in 60, blah 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 blah, whatever. Sorry, and the way and I'll come back to the date of the Marble Index, but the way I got switched onto it was I read something about Brian Eno and about his ambient work in the 70s and later on, and he was being interviewed in 2000 or something, and he said the album that really kind of made him think about production and atmosphere and stuff was the Marble Index. He said you have to listen to the Marble Index to anybody who was reading it. So I thought, well, I'll have a listen to the Marble Index. So I listened to the Marble Index and I thought, wow, that's amazing. And it wasn't until recently that I thought, well, when did that come out then? And so the Marble Index, and you got a taste of it. It sounds pretty much like that through the whole thing, right?
Beautiful,
so,
beautiful.
It is 1968, November 1968, right?
Wow.
And I thought, what? And so I did a Wikipedia thing with all the albums that came out in 1968. And it's like, wow, this is like not tapping into the blues thing, the white blues thing. It's not tapping into any of that. And it's way ahead. The production of it feels way ahead. It feels more like a kind of post-punk kind of album, but it's folky. And you know, she ended up living in Manchester when she was a junkie, and or coming out of being a junkie, or maybe still a junkie, or half a junkie, or whatever it is. And she had a band.
Hang on, can I just enjoy half a junkie for a minute?
Half a junkie.
Yeah, go on.
So she then kind of got involved, but she wasn't in Factory Records, but she had a band that by then in the 80s that sounded very much like a post-punk band, probably more modeled and more kind of a little bit more kind of forgettable in a way, but still very good compared to this 1968 album, which is like, hang on a minute, this is like mad, because it doesn't fit with any of the other albums that came out in 1968, which are things like, you know, in November 1968, you've got
Piper at the Gates of Dawn, all that.
Yeah, you've got all of that early. It's before Pink Floyd become all of that. You've got it's before Led Zeppelin. It's the Byrds, the Notorious Byrd Brothers. It's Miles Davis, Nefertiti. It's Canned Heat, Boogie with Canned Heat, and that's just that month. You know, it's just. Oh no, sorry, that's the January of that month. I got it wrong. But basically, she comes out at the end of 1968 with that album, and it's just like mad. Saucer Full of Secrets comes out, Pink Floyd that year. It's all this psychedelic stuff, and that album isn't psychedelic. And the Lawns of Dawn, which are on is a track on that, refers to a dream that she had when she had this. It was only a few months relationship with Jim Morrison, and she'd go out in the desert with Jim Morrison and take acid, and they would, and you know, they'd become blood brother and sister, and she'd say like, "Are you going to marry me then?" And he'd laugh, and she'd beat him up, and then they'd have this sort of like,
Let's have a little bit of that. Let's have a little bit of that Lawns of Dawn. You know, Tim,
it has got other instruments on it. Sorry, it has got other instruments on it, but it's not a rock album, and it's very much kind of doing this thing.
Both of those two tunes that I've just played a little bit of, they sound both of them. They sound to me like that sort of Icelandic stuff, like Mum, which I adore, and Sigur Rós. Very much like that. Very sort of spatial, simple harmonic. Gorgeous.
Totally,
Stuff.
yeah. And it's like the production on it is like fantastic. So Eno's like picking up on all of that, you know, and he's like going, wow, this is like a kind of a glacial thing, you know. So yeah, there you go. It's in there, right? That's it. That's that one.
Incredible. So
but 1968, that's what blew me away. And that was only recently. I was like, that can't be right. She's way ahead of being just a former model who was then in this on this Velvet Underground album that then kind of was this proto goth or non-trans, you know, whatever.
You kind of get the sense she's like a proto Bez with the Velvet Underground. She just sort of hangs around with them and looks funny or interesting or whatever.
Yeah,
but
and then she goes, and then I think there's this idea that when she gets a harmonium, she goes, I can actually do stuff with this, and then getting to know Jim Morrison, probably because of Velvet Underground and all that world, and Morrison really being in support of her in terms of, you can do this, you know, let's talk about the poetry, let's talk about that. Brilliant, really
incredible.
I'm not saying he's the reason why, but you know, it's part of her finding the right people.
Yeah, I used to love the Doors as a teenager.
I still do love the Doors.
Well, hang on. Here's the story. I absolutely adored them. I thought I was Jim Morrison. I had my leather trousers and I wanted to fuck women and get drunk. And then you get to your late 20s and you think, oh, that's so cringe. And then you fuck it off for 2 decades. And then in your mid 40s, you think, hang on, The Soft Parade's quite the album. And you put it on and you think, this is amazing.
Yeah,
because you're mature, you suddenly can just deal with it again. It's just
I sacked them off pretty early on because people were going like, oh, the Doors. No, there was this thing about having to hate the Doors as well, actually. Yeah. And so I sacked it off, but I kind of liked it. And then came back to it about 10 years ago, and I thought, well, listen to this, and I was like, wow, this is wild. And that album, posthumous album of him reading his poetry in America, it's called American
Prayer.
American Prayer.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, so the Marble Index and the American Prayer are kind of like
nice,
connected. Very good.
Yeah, some incredible songwriting. What an interesting bunch of blokes to get together.
Yeah, sure.
I saw the documentary on Amy Winehouse and her death, which was tragic and awful. But there was something about Jim Morrison's death that I just saw him as a really, really sad, broken child. And having spent most of my life addicted to painkillers, so many people don't or can't grow up, and you see it with the albums. Even there's 7 Doors albums, and you've got this sort of young man saying fuck you, and then you've got a sort of a man transitioning to an adult saying help me, and then the last lot's just I'm giving up on this, I can't do it. It's quite a tragic story. And then when I see Oliver Stone's film, I think, no, you really missed.
I think it misses the point. The Doors film.
There you go. That's exactly what I just said. You missed what was going on.
No, I'm agreeing with you. That's why I'm repeating it. I heard it. No, I completely agree. It doesn't get it. There needs to be, if possibly, a really good film about the Doors made that actually does exactly what you said, that looks at this young lad really that is immensely talented. I mean, just unbelievably talented, and able to kind of project his character into these other characters. And also there's the whole kind of proposition of astral trajectory that he somehow manages to weave into this myth performance, you know, the shaman, the Native American thing, and it's all connected to this story of him that he tells of remembering seeing these Native American Indians in a lorry crash or a crash.
Yeah, that's it. There's a car crash at the side of the road, wasn't
Just
there?
like, you know, and whether or not that's embellished over time because he tells it lots of times or talks about it, it's well known. In a way, it doesn't really matter because it becomes this kind of object in his life that is almost like an anchor, but is also doing other things. There needs to be something really good done with that.
I think his relationship with women and their, you know, the magnetism he had, that I think that's what crippled him. I think it crippled him. I think he found an easy route that I think he used women like drugs, like people use drugs for the same reasons.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think a decent movie about Jim Morrison would probably not have much music in it.
Yeah, I agree.
Want to see a biopic.
I agree. That would be really interesting without much music in it. Yeah.
Because we've heard that. I know that bit. I get that bit. I know what he does when he performs. You know, I can.
Yeah, me too.
Well.
Yeah, me too.
There's another story there that's far more human.
Absolutely agree with you. That's brilliant, that, Chris. That's really good. Because it's such a good performance of him over and over again on stage that it's actually not straightforward to find that to look through that. You have to kind of know enough about how to do that kind of performance. You know, I'm not talking about whether it's to that quality or whatever. You have to sort of know to go, well, actually, it's a young lad, actually. He's 23 and he's trying to deal with a whole load of stuff. And at the same time, he's kind of thinking about romantic poetry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've done over 20 rehab centers, and every one of them, they always pick up on it. You got to stop performing. That's what he always got. Socially, you perform. You saw it, and it was only when I was about 35 that I actually started tackling that stuff because it was killing me, literally killing me.
Yeah. I
Taking
understand.
heroin to calm myself down, because when I was in public, I'm either holding court or I'm not there.
Yeah.
And that means you're either completely isolated, and for a social animal, that's death, or I'm drained. I'm not. I'm absent. Both options. I'm either performing or I'm isolated, and I'm absent. And I think he had something like that going on, and maybe that's why I kind of appealed to it. You know, I kind of identify with that kind of sadness and that fear, and it gets missed. But fucking great music, nonetheless.
Absolutely. Right.
What's your favourite Doors album? I know we don't have favourites, but if I said to you now, you could play one Doors album, what's it going to be?
It's well, I like Waiting for the Sun a lot. I do like Waiting for the Sun.
Is that She Lives on Love Street?
Yeah. But I mean, they're all here we go. They're all brilliant. But Soft Parade's the most prog rocky one out of them.
And the one that got slammed most by the critics.
Yeah, and it's actually brilliant because it's different from the other one. They're all actually different. You know, they're all actually different, which is another thing, is that they're not all the same. They're not sort of all the same. They're not trying to furrow a status quo type of kind of reproducible thing. They're sufficiently different, and the Soft Parade's very different. And I really like the Soft Parade a lot.
I'm just thinking of some of it now. Dun, 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 dun. I'm proud to be a part of this number.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Right then. Right. So this is The Song Remains the Same by Led Zeppelin.
No way. The documentary of their tour, is it, in America?
Yeah, it's the film. The movie.
Wouldn't fucking happen in England, would it? Wouldn't fucking happen in England.
1976. The Song Remains the Same. It's not quite a biopic. It's not a biopic. It's not a biopic. It's not just an album. It's not just a film about a gig. It's actually got these sort of cheesy insights, their fantasies for each member of the band, right?
That's a mad choice, man.
The reason why I put it in, and it was flipping like that, so it was almost on the going towards the come and see thing, and I thought, now actually, I'm going to put this in because I get an album in, because I was having an argument between Led Zeppelin and Nico, right? Because but when I was 14, early 14, I got Led Zeppelin 2. So I'd had albums before, but this was the album that I bought that wasn't my brother's, connected to my brother's albums or whatever,
right,
you know, or my classroom. I bought Led Zeppelin 2, and it just like it did that thing that you know, it sort of just went, oh fucking hell, this world's going to be great. This is going to be great. This is now, that's it. So it sort of unlocked. So I'm 14, and it unlocked something, and it just kind of, wow, you know, this is it. There was this idea of a cornucopia of pleasure that was rolling on, but all grounded in a sort of, we know, stolen then, but you know, kind of like absorbed all of this blues stuff and did it really well as well. So it had light and shade in it. So then I'm 14, and not the main cinemas, but this one-off cinema. It was an old cinema, and sometimes it would show stuff and sometimes it wouldn't. And it showed the
like
song.
most cinemas, in fairness,
the song remains the same. Wasn't an art cinema. Song remains the same in Sunderland, right? And it was support. It had 2 other movies with it as well, right? So started off with a Status Quo movie. I don't know what it was, and I wasn't really. I never really got that thing with the Status Quo. And then, but it's fine. But people did. And so I watched that, and I'm watching that, and I'm only 14, right? And then Fairview Cinema in Sunderland, right? And then the next one was Rory Gallagher. This is all in one sitting. Rory Gallagher's 1974 Irish tour, right? And that was like, wow, this is amazing. What's he doing with these fingers on that guitar? Look at that. Incredible. And then, right, Led Zeppelin. And so I had this Led Zeppelin 2 that I had in my head. I knew it. And then this movie comes on. Yeah. This movie comes on, and it's got this bit of a rambling thing, which is to do with Peter Grant, the manager's fantasy. They each have this sort of segment that's to do with their own vignette, if you like, to do with their own sort of fantasy. And it's his sort of gangster fantasy. And it sort of gets mixed up with Led Zeppelin getting on the plane, which is their plane, their Led Zeppelin plane. Yeah. And they're flying into New York, JFK, and then they're in the car, and then you're getting closer to Madison Square Gardens. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a big deal, isn't it? And then when it opens with Rock and Roll, which is first track on Led Zeppelin 4, right? But it's the first track that they open with, right? So they open with it. And instead of the camera pointing at them, it's actually behind the drum kit high up. So it's like at 14, I thought, well, I'm on stage looking out at the Madison Square Garden, but I can see the backs of, you know, I can see John Bonham's head, and I can see Jimmy Page on the left, and I can see Robert Plant with his tight butt crack thing going on, flares, and then oh yeah, that little hiding away is John Paul Jones, who's a genius, right? And it's like the wrong way round from the other 2 movies that I've seen, where you're looking at the band as if you are in the audience trying to be, which doesn't work. But it worked for me because I was 14. But this was like, whoa, this is incredible. And then, you know, it just like, it was like, you know, it's that. Where is it? It's that, you know. And the guitar playing, because I wasn't desensitized to the guitar playing. It was a new thing. So all the new stuff happened. All this hairs on the back of my neck had gone up, and I was like, wow, look at this. And then later on, it's like I find out that Page has got these dragon suits that he starts wearing during that tour. He's the black one with the moon and the crescent and other, you know, there's all of these arcane symbols that relate to his obsession with Aleister Crowley and all of that. And so it just builds the whole kind of mythos of it is built, and there it is. So that album, although it's not the best, you know, live album, it is in a way for me, because it's the I can see the film, and you can see the film on YouTube anytime you want, or not.
What's his name? Did you say Bernie Grant? Or is he the
Peter Grant? Peter Grant.
There's that bit where someone's selling bootleg merch, and he's going, "It wouldn't fucking happen in England." That's the only bit.
You're ripping them off. You're ripping the band off.
That's it.
And the bloke's going like, "Yeah, well, I didn't know. Yeah, you didn't know. You say you didn't know, but you were still selling them."
That's all I remember from that movie. I watched it on acid around a mate's house when I was about 16. You mentioned Zepp 2 there. The Zepp album I go to is Zepp 3. It's
fantastic.
Ronnie Erstomp. It's got Tangerine. Yeah. It's got Immigrant Song. It's
and they got completely slated for that when it came out, because it wasn't Led Zeppelin 2. There's this sort of you could go from Led Zeppelin 1 to Led Zeppelin 2, but then Led Zeppelin 3 came out and it got slated, but it sold millions. Yeah. And that's why they started to become, allegedly, they became more and more elusive. They wouldn't do interviews and stuff like that, because they're like, well, what's the point? You know, you're only going to slag us off. There's no point. So we're just going to make the albums, and everybody's going to buy them, and everybody's going to come and see us, and that's like get stuff kind of thing. I like that. I like that sense of like, we are not built by we're not a product of the construction of criticism and music press and the industry and all of that kind of stuff. We've got this deal. We can do what we want. Yes, we've got the deal. But their first album, they made the album and then went, look, what about that? They were in complete control. So I kind of think Led Zeppelin 3 is incredible. I mean, it's just brilliant, isn't it? Because of all the folky stuff, they tap into all of that they're all into. Incredible string band and all of that stuff that they're into.
Tim, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing 3-hour chat.
I know, it was a good one. It was a good
the surprise that didn't happen was Mumford was going to come on.
Oh,
he was going to, but I said to him, I'll send the link to you when we're done with before we get onto Tim's, when we get to the end. And I can tell that he hasn't even looked at it. It is late over here. It's 2 a.m, but he's up all night anyway. I think he just.
Oh well, you know, it's all right. That's good. Even you just saying it, that was good. Yeah.
He was talking to me earlier. I kept saying to you, I talked to him a few days ago because I didn't want to give it away. But he was talking today about things he wanted to ask you, and music he wanted your opinion on. So I thought he's definitely coming on. And when I sent him the link, thinking here he comes, and he didn't. So
it's all right. That's cool. No,
but
I really enjoyed it.
I am going to play us out with a bit of me and Mumford, because I don't know, you never knew about all this. Me and Mumford had a publishing deal, recording deal, and a management deal. I fucked it up because I was a crackhead. But Alex James from Blur was going to produce it. That was all sorted. And I'm going to play us out because the chat loved this song. And this was going to be the single. It's called New Shoes. While I'm just sorting that out, I want to thank everyone who hung around. And, you know, it was quite an heavy conversation, actually. And to sit through that and to enjoy it like a load of you appeared to is a great thing. I really appreciate you hanging around. 3 hours is a long stream. Tim, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, everyone who donated. You can still throw some filthy lucre at the stream while the music's playing. There's a song. Tim, an absolute pleasure. Honestly, I could have talked to you for hours. Look, everyone in the chat saying very good vid. Cheers, Tim. Amazing. There you go. And they're lovely people. They really are. Bless you all.
No, thanks you.
Thanks,
thanks, Chris. Because it's really it's more than just entertaining for me. There's all these connections that we have over 40 years, 30 years, or whatever, in and out of those. And for me, it's also about sorting things out. Like fantastic choices on the cultural artifacts. Fantastic, because I didn't know what was coming. I was nervous.
That was the plan. Well, for me, to be like you said, thank you, Chrissy. Very kind of you, love. Chris, you had a tutor that was your mentor, and you said that you've looked for her and you haven't managed to find her. For me to still have to have developed a friendship with you, like you said, over 30 years now, and to be able to effortlessly talk to you, I treasure it. I cherish it. I really do.
Brilliant. No, I've loved it. It's been brilliant.
If you can hang around for a couple of minutes, listen to me in Mumford when we were about 30. This was the band that I fucked.
Absolutely.
I wrote the songs, but I fucked up. But you can get off the screen and just watch it. I'll ditch you out anyway. Otherwise, you'll have to sit there.
All right then.
But you'll be able to hear it. Tim, thank you very much. Argon Tom. And I will. I'll talk to you soon. And this is me in Mumford. New shoes. Take care, Tim.
See you later.
You, mate. What a lovely bloke. Honestly, I don't want to over egg the omelette, but a life-changing encounter for me that man was, and it's lovely to have a relationship with him. And that 3 hours 12 minutes just flew by. Tim, we'll have to hook up when I come over to England and have a few jars out somewhere, mate, for sure. This is me in Mumford. This is New Shoes. Someone give me an audio check because I always fuck it up. Look after yourselves, people.
I'm stupid, I'm lazy, but in the discotheque I still look crazy. Love me, baby, I only tell lies cause the truth escapes. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues. I'm knackered, I'm fading, but in the right light I still look vaguely human. Happy it won't be long before we cave in. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues. You can get the blues. Don't worry about my heroin addiction, it's only slight. I need you, love you, and I feel the same again tonight. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues. You can get the blues. You can get the blues. You can get the
Now, you know it always happens when I play a household track. I'm going to give you one more. I'll give you Get It Out. First take, me singing, Alf My Nut, Mumford on guitar. First take, and then I'll go.
You came in my dream, kissed me, loved me. Tears of a baby roll down your cheek. Your eyes are wide, so look around. You've love to give, so get it out. Get it out anytime. Love sits beside me, I feel complete. You came in my dream, kissed me, loved me. Your eyes are wide, so look around. You've love to give, so get it out. Get it out anytime.
Muted. Take care, Tim. Thanks again. Look after yourself, mate. Thank you all. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll do the missus is in the provinces, so I'll stream twice tomorrow. Bless you all. Look after yourselves, and don't forget to tell the people you love that you love them, because they need to know, and we don't tell them enough. Hoita!